Welcome to another edition of AV Rant. I'm Tom Andry, Associate Editor of Audioholics, and I'm here with...
Rob H. This is AV Rant, your home theater and AV questions answered. And yes, all questions will be answered. Even if we miss some from last week, we'll get them this week. That's the plan.
Eventually.
Oh yeah,
All of our questions,
we don't skip.
all of your questions will be answered whether we like it or not. Uh, just about, yeah. So we have a lot of questions left over for last week, so we're not going to jack around.
Yeah.
I will tell you a quick story.
Okay.
This is sort of my news story for the week. So over, I think it was Thursday night or Friday night, and if you want to know one of the reasons why the podcast was posted late, this is why. This is not the only reason, but one of the reasons. Thursday night, Friday night, my system shut itself off. So
Like
I was
computer?
like, no, my home theater.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, okay, that's weird, right? So, but I could tell the projector was still on, because you hear it, and it's not black, and but that's okay because that's got plugged into a battery backup, so I'm okay. That's right, fine. So I go over, I walk out of the home theater. I'm like, wait, the lights are still on, so it's not a power outage, which is what I expected, and I realized that the battery backup wasn't beeping at me, which is what it does
Right.
when it goes into battery power, which isn't really. But so I went back in here, and everything's on but the receiver.
All right.
I'm like, okay, so I press the button, everything's still going. Netflix is still playing, everything's going on. I'm like, okay. And so I don't think much of it, and I go back to watching Netflix a little bit, and it's getting around 2:30 or something. I'm up way too late at this point, and it shuts itself off again. I'm like, that's odd. So, but it's too late, so I just shut everything down, and I'm like, okay, whatever, I'll deal with it tomorrow. So next morning I get up, and I realize that the PC in my main PC is shut off too. It's shut down. I'm like, got it. It was like a little power fluctuation, probably, with all the ACs going on. We've had lots of rain, stuff like that. It was just a little blip. It was enough to shut down the receiver, but not enough to shut down everything else. I don't even remember where I plugged in my Xbox One. It might be on the battery backup as well. I don't know. So, that's probably what happened. Friday night, I'm watching it. Does it again. Does it like two or three more times. I'm like, yeah.
I have like 3 guesses at this point.
There's only one real guess. I mean, I go ahead and hear yours, but there's only one thing that came to my mind, and it was the right thing as far as I can tell. So go ahead.
Stray wire?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. I have no idea which one it was, but I spent the better part of Saturday afternoon behind my receiver, taking out any speaker cable that looked at all. Anyway, I dusted everything. I'm like, maybe there's something lying across it. I vacuumed everything out. I went around to all my speakers. I vacuumed everything, dusted everything off, made sure there wasn't any like weird hairs anywhere. Anything I could think of that would conduct electricity across 2 wires. Redid the termination for a couple of my speaker wires that looked like they were coming a little frayed, and made sure that they had plenty of room and nothing was touching. So since I did that, it's fixed. So you think, been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah.
I terminated, most of those are terminated by Blue Jeans, but some of them I terminated myself, and I haven't touched those things in 10 years. Nothing has changed. And it's exactly what it was. So I unless it does it again, which I hope it doesn't, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. So yeah.
Well, I talked to someone over the weekend whose Android phone, for some reason, when they accessed the camera, it just gave them an error message.
Yeah.
So I powered it off, and I powered it back on, and then the camera worked.
And it fixed it.
So, good old customer service. Did you check all your connections? Did you try turning it off and turning it back on?
Right, yes.
I hate how often those two things actually fix the problem.
That's the thing. It's like, people, they're like, no, it's not the speaker wire. I haven't touched anything. I'm like,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I have not touched anything in literally a decade. Okay, I have not touched anything in the back of that receiver since I got over a year ago when I put in the X4000. Have not touched a thing. Shut itself off for no reason over the weekend. All right, it just happens. All right, so we all go through troubleshooting. All right, there is a little bit of news. Yamaha announced their MusicCast, which is They've had a music. They had a device called a MusicCast, didn't they?
I thought so. I mean, it wasn't
Gene had one.
it wasn't a new name to me, but
yeah, it's
yeah.
it's a music streamer. It was a box that streamed music around
Okay.
and that sort of thing. So, but they've now repurposed that name.
Yes.
And it is now like Sonos and
Heos.
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 Except they're actually doing it right, which is what I thought Darren should do.
Seems
They're
so, yeah.
putting it in all their receivers.
Yeah.
So right out the gate, the receivers are going to stream to these speakers. The first one's like $250, normal.
Little self-powered speaker on its own. Yeah. Yeah, the receivers can be both sources and like the device that plays, say,
Right.
what's on your network or something like that. So it goes both directions. That's good.
Yeah.
And they're touting how, unlike, say, Sonos, they're supporting a greater number of formats,
We got
like
FLAC
FLAC and Wave and
yeah.
Apple lossless, and in, quote unquote, high resolution audio files. Because
HDR files.
people worry about that.
HDRA.
With their 192 kilohertz 24-bit stuff. Yeah, interesting. Snuck in there was the announcement that they are going to be releasing a new flagship pre-pro, an 11.2 channel CXA 5100 for MSRP of 3,000, but on Yamaha's own website, it's already at 2,500. So I'm like, well, obviously that's the real price. It's weird for Yamaha to do that on their very own website, is cross out their own MSRP on their own website and be like, nah, it's actually 2,500.
Yeah. Why don't you just put 10 grand on there?
Yeah, really. Look
Yeah.
at the savings.
Look at the
Quarter of the price.
Yeah, and they've also announced that we got this via one of our listeners, Barney, a new sound bar, the YSP 5600 digital sound projector,
Yup.
$1,700, coming out in December, and it has 32 drivers. To simulate 7.1. They might as well say 11.1. They could say 1,000.1, really.
Well, this is their, digital sound projector thing, which Yamaha's been doing for quite a while now.
Yes, that's right. And
Yeah.
Jonathan, one of our listeners, has one and loves it. And it bounces the sound around the room, or you can change it to the phase mode, so it just phase instead. But this one has, as I think we predicted.
Yeah.
Many moons
Lots
ago,
of people predicted,
the
but
best
here it
place
is.
The best place to put Atmos upward firing speakers is in the sound bar. Here it is.
Here it is. 12 more drivers on top of the 32. So a grand total of 44 drivers, 6 on each side that are angled upwards, and they are bouncing sound off the ceiling. And here is one where it's like, well, I do believe they are actually bouncing the sound in this case, because that's how the whole digital sound projector thing worked for the other ones, except it was bouncing off the side and back walls previously. Now it's bouncing off the ceiling too. But really,
so
really
what they
bouncing.
do with these bouncing the sound off, the way it was explained to me way back in the day, is that they measure the room, they measure it, and then they figure out, okay, in what order they have to fire the drivers in order to use the sound to direct the sound around the walls.
Yeah,
Right?
because these are little drivers, right?
They're
All
tiny.
44 of these are like 1-inch drivers, I think.
It might even be 0.75.
Yeah, something like that. And I mean, they are using very complex algorithms to make sure that like one of them fires and then another one fires just behind it and then another one fires just behind that, and the waves all like accumulate on top of each other and give them a direction. So it's very complex stuff, but they are doing it for real.
Now I just wonder how well they're going to be able to do that, because the problem I had with the one soundbar that I reviewed for them, which I thought was actually garbage, was that they have drivers in it, right? They didn't have enough drivers to do that, and with 6 drivers on the side to bounce it off the ceiling. But then again, they're not going for as. I would wonder if they're even doing that, which they do with the other stuff, in order to bounce it around the room. I wonder if they're even trying to fire those drivers in different order, so they're just not like, oh, no, oh, that's what's going.
Yeah, see, they didn't make it clear if they're trying to simulate 4 overhead speakers or only 2. Because it's probably 2.
Yeah.
And I believe they could do that. But interestingly, this does have Atmos and DTS-X.
There you go.
And it's part of this whole MusicCast system. So they were like, hey, this is the first wireless whole home solution that can actually fire around full bitstream audio. That bitstream audio would have to be coming from one of the AV receivers to a device like this digital sound projector. But, kind of cool. You can do this all wirelessly, other than the power cord, of course.
And what's his name has been looking for a way to. Infinite Gary has been asking us over and over again about Atmos enabled speakers. Here you go, dude. $1,700. Try it out.
Yeah.
Try it at home. Take it back afterwards. You're done. Get it from Best Buy. You're done.
It's here, though. We said it. Atmos, boom, there it is.
Yeah. Pioneer also added Atmos-enabled upward-firing speakers and modules to the regular Pioneer Andrew Jones speaker lineup. Now that Andrew Jones has left the building, they're like, "Yay! Let's just start adding stuff to that because surely we know."
They said he designed these, so either this was before he left, or they have now contracted him to come back and do these. I don't know which is the case.
Could be. Anyways, they're the non-Atmos SPB S22s are $130 a pair, and for the add-on modules, it's $200 a pair.
Yeah. And they also have a new version of the BS22s, the BS22As, which incorporate the upward firing driver into the bookshelf speaker. Those are $300 a pair. So right there, you can see the difference in price, because that cost is not going to the drivers in these things. It's a 4-inch driver with a concentric half-inch little tweeter nestled in the middle of it. Teeny tiny little thing. I think they only play down to 200 hertz at the low end. But yeah, the bulk of that money is the Atmos licensing fee. That's where the money's going. So yeah,
Dolby's taking that one all the way to the bank. Yeah, so don't buy them. Anyways, Harmony is now becoming the most robust home automation control platform. The hub systems now work with Insteon August locks, which I mean, you unlock your doors with it now. Is that what you're telling me?
Yup.
And
that's exactly it.
I don't know what Ecobee is.
Ecobee's like thermostats and stuff like that. They kind of they kind of go head to head with Nest.
I want to get a thermostat. Maybe I'll get an Ecobee.
Yeah.
Because the Nest one's like $200. That's a lot.
Yeah, the Ecobees aren't cheap. Ecobee is part of Apple's whole smart home system thingy. So, I mean, what's interesting here is that Harmony's basically like, hey, man, if you want to work with us, we want to work with you. That seems to be their approach to this, which is kind of cool. Like, I wasn't really expecting them to get Insteon on board. I mean, the one drawback that I still see with most of these systems is one thing I would like to be able to do if I had home automation is I would like to be able to control my house from anywhere in the world as long as I have an internet connection. And the Harmony hub-based system doesn't really do that. You know, it's within your home. You can use your smartphone as your Harmony remote, but it has to be on your Wi-Fi network, not, you know, remotely through an internet connection. So that little bit is still missing. But if you're thinking about controlling things within your home or within your Wi-Fi range around your home anyway, it's kind of amazing how much Harmony is now supporting. It's like quietly they've built up this major amount of support for lots of different systems.
Yeah, that's well, Nest is the same way. You can't really control it directly when you're not on your network.
Yeah.
When you're outside your network, you send a command to Nest, and Nest verifies that you are not, though, I mean, I really don't know how much damage you can do to somebody's house by messing with the remote. I guess if you're going to be gone for a long time, you jacked it all up. Anyways, they and then they send the command to your thermostat. So it's a two-part system. You can't go directly like you might expect.
Yeah, this is sort of answering that whole thing where it's like, what I want is one interface to control all home automation devices. I don't want to have to go to separate apps to control each thing. I don't want a separate app for my lights and one for my shades and one for my thermostat and on, right? I want one interface, and it's like, hey, if Harmony can do that, and kind of cool, you can
like this forever,
do it with
right?
the
I mean, I've never seen a commercial 10 years ago or something like that where the guy drives up to his house and presses the button in his car, turns on his light, presses the button, the blender goes on or something like that. I mean, they've been promising this stuff.
We're getting there
forever, and it's just finally getting here. So. Yay, future. Where's my hoverboard? All right, Sean. Of course, all these questions from last week. Don't worry, we might even. Hopefully, we'll get to this week. We will see. Sean has written in before about his theater build. He was the guy with a ton of wire in his basement that Rob mistakenly thought was speaker wire.
Yeah.
Now it's finally time to buy equipment. So he has a few final questions. He was previously considering a pair of SVS PB2000s, supported box, but as one has to be placed behind a bar, he is now looking at the SB2000s to save space. The room is approximately 11 by 20 by 8. Will the SB2000 provide enough room output for his room? What's wrong with the cylinder, dude? What's wrong with the cylinder? If you're looking to save space, what's wrong with the cylinder?
Maybe it's too tall. Maybe.
But for being behind the bar, it's not taller than the bar. It's certainly not taller than the bar.
Well, I will say at 1,760 feet, approximately, total cubic feet, the SP2000s would be fine in that, because I mean that's like barely larger than what would be called a small room. Like a small room is like under 1,500 cubic feet.
Yeah.
From 1,500 to about 2,500 cubic feet, roughly, we'd call like a medium room. So this is well within the it's on the lower end of a medium room. The SP2000s would be fine in that volume of air. So if you went that way, not a problem. And yeah, I don't disagree. Those cylinders, it is nice.
Yeah, and you're going to get more output and lower as well. But they might be
right. Yeah, but the SP2000s would be fine in that room size. Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah.
Get the cylinders. For speakers, plan on the EMP Tech compression towers for the mains, R56CI center and R55WI bipoles for the side surrounds. For the back surrounds, you should use another pair of R55WIs. I guess those are in walls. Is that what the I means?
I think the WIs are the dipoles, aren't they? Yeah, they are. They're the switchable dipole bipoles.
All right. Or the bookshelf. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. W whatever. The bookshelf R5BI. So he wants to know for the backs, should he use the bipoles or the bookshelves? And generally for surround back speakers, the suggestion from just about everybody is a bookshelf, not the bookshelf, but direct firing.
Direct firing, yeah.
You don't want that real diffuse sound back there.
Yeah. Bonus with that, the bookshelves from EMP Tech are less expensive than the bipoles, so it's not as though we're asking you to spend more money. We're saying spend less money and use the direct firing bookshelves as your surround backs.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yes, I agree, and those are good speakers, and you're gonna love them.
Yeah, they are good speakers.
They really
nice
are.
Looking too.
Yeah, they really are. It's kind of sick. It's almost like I feel. I honestly do. Whenever I see a speaker that looks as good as those speakers look, I go, "That might be garbage." But I've heard them, and I know they're not garbage. But I still think they got to be garbage. Because they look too good. They look like some of those white van speakers, and you're gonna get them home and scratch them. But they're not. They're very well designed. Michael and his wife are building a cottage. Cottage? Is it log cabin? I always think of log cabins. It's got to be on a lake, right? It must be.
It's usually it's rural anyway, usually.
Yes, where he might move into... okay, so they might be moving there in the spring of 2016, but even if they don't, he's considering moving his theater to it as it sits on a 3/4 acre lot where there are no neighbors to bother, unlike his current apartment.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's in an apartment, and he's going to drive to go watch TV? Is that what I'm getting from this? Or he's
Well, I mean, I'm sure he'll still have a TV of some sort at his house, but, if they're going to be spending a significant amount of time, he's like, maybe I'll put my main theater in this place because I can crank it up and play it as loud as I want.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I have to say that these are the single most confusing pictures I've ever seen. So really not helpful on that. You needed to draw a picture for us, dude.
I kind of get what he's getting, but I don't really get what's going on behind the corner that he's showing.
I have no clue what's going on here. Yeah. The corner, he's considering, I guess he's considering putting the entire thing, it's going to bridge the corner. Is that the idea?
I believe so, yeah. Because let's describe this. What he's got, if you're looking at the picture that he sent, it's the front left corner of the room. And there's basically 5 feet from that front left corner to a door that leads somewhere. And then on the other side of the corner, so over to the left would be, if we're looking at the image that he sent us, over to the left, there is about 6 feet from the corner to a large window. And then the window itself is a large picture window that's like 7 feet wide. So he was basically like, can I somehow put a system? He's got tower speakers. He's got PSP tower speakers. He's like, can I set them up in the corner? Is there like adequate space to do that? Or should he just put everything in front of the picture window? Because that whole wall from side to side is like 14, 15 feet or some odd.
Yes. Do that. That's
I mean, the problem is I don't know what's going on in the rest of the room. Like it's clearly not.
He's got a door there. How is he going to put that thing across and have the speaker be right next to that door? That's not going to work.
Well, if you did use the corner, you've got a grand total of about 7.5 feet, like the hypotenuse of that corner. But that's not taking into account like the depth of the speakers, which you do have to account for because it's not like they're going to be sunken into the wall.
How do you feel about not using that door at all? How about that? Do you not use the door? Can you just like?
I suspect that's not an option in a cottage. I suspect there's not like a bunch of extra rooms that just don't need accessing.
Yeah, I would put some blackout drapes on those curtains.
Mm.
and put it right there. It gives you a lot more room to make your life a lot easier. I've done that. It's really actually kind of nice, especially if you have a drop screen. I don't know what his plan is for gear and
Mm.
stuff like that. But if you have a drop screen, you put the blackout curtains, right? And you drop the screen, you watch your TV or do whatever you're going to do. The screen goes up afterwards. You open the curtains, and it's like there's nothing there. You put a little piece of
Mm.
furniture there with your center channel on top of it, or maybe inside it if you have to. And it just looks like a piece of furniture in a room with, and it looks kind of normal. But you drop that
Right.
screen, man, and it's suddenly a full-fledged home theater.
Yeah.
That's what we did in our house in Jacksonville. And before that, it was sort of this kind of weird cave den thing in the middle of the house. And then once I got that screen and was able to open those drapes every once in a while, it turned it into a functional room again.
Mm.
You could pull the screen up, open the drapes. People would sit in there and talk and stuff, and they wouldn't even really realize they thought we just had really bad feng shui, which I can live with that. So,
Yeah, I mean, it seems like what Michael was basically wondering is, if you put it in a corner placement, and the way he was thinking of doing it, it's not like exactly a 45-degree angle. It's like a little bit more than a 45-degree angle because one wall is a little bit longer than the other. So it's like, imagine you have a 90-degree bang-on straight-facing a wall setup, and then you just rotated everything like 45 degrees and then a little bit more.
Yeah.
He's like, is that going to be a big problem? And the answer is not really. You can absolutely have a corner-facing setup. That's by no means the end of the world. In fact, it can sometimes make your surround speakers sound a bit better than when you're in a really small room and they're really close to you on the side walls.
Yeah.
Now they're basically in the two corners because you've rotated everything 45 degrees. So they get farther away from you, which makes them sound more diffuse, which they're supposed to. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing a corner placement. My only caveat there is that, with 5 feet on one side, 6 feet on the other, you're basically going to have your two tower speakers maybe 6.5 feet apart at the most.
that's what, yeah.
Which is a little bit close together.
That whatever piece of furniture you're going to have up
Yeah.
there, TV, whatever is up there, and it's just going to be too close. I think either that to be like one will be way out to the side, and the other one will be right next to that door.
Yeah.
And that is not what.
But I mean, it could be okay. I mean, at least they're 6 feet apart. 6 feet is about the minimum you want your two front speakers apart. And if the whole room is pretty darn small and you're sitting fairly close anyway, it could work. I mean, I think part of it is his wife kind of wanted to throw everything in the corner so that the entire room didn't have to be dedicated to the theater. Whereas if you used that picture window side, it's like, yeah, this is pretty much the theater room now, where there's no mistaking what this room is
Picture
about.
her my idea.
Yeah,
Do the drop screen.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, dude.
which would really be mostly for her because Michael is visually impaired, so
There you go.
It's-
See, it's win-win.
it's mostly for her to have a drop screen. That's awesome.
I can't keep track of all of our Michaels. I'm sorry, Mike.
I know.
Just too many Michaels. Darren over on Facebook is building a Atmos theater in his basement. There will be two rows of seats, and the room size is 14 by 22 by 12.
Yeah.
But he has reduced that 12-foot ceiling height to 11.5 because he's got a drop ceiling.
I think it's even less than that. I think it's like 9.5 or 10 feet.
Oh, I'm
'cause
sorry.
He's,
You're right.
he's gonna have
It's
a pretty
9.5.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's gonna drop by 2.5 feet or so with that
My
drop
math
ceiling.
wrong. I don't know what else. 2.5 feet he's dropping. Subwoofer Wives, he's considering a single Dayton Audio Ultimax 18 or two Ultimax 15s if he goes for the duals. Would it be better to put them on the two side walls or the front and back walls? Well, first of all, go for the duals. Let's just say that.
Yes, absolutely. Go for the duels.
Go for the
Yeah.
duals. So now that that's out of the way. Looking at the dimensions here. I guess it would depend on which mode you're trying to get rid of.
Yeah.
So do you want to get rid of the 14 or the 12? And I'd have to look what's the 14 and what's the 12? 22 one, I mean?
Yeah, the 14-foot width gives you a mode, I think it's around 75 hertz or somewhere in there. It's a little bit higher anyway, obviously, being a shorter distance. And the 22 is down in like the 50 hertz range. So, I mean, just in terms of which one you're more likely to hear, which one is more likely to be played more often, I would tend to err on putting them on the two sidewalls. So that you are eliminating a standing wave at the higher frequency between those two anyway. That's where I'd come up from it. Yeah, I like sidewall placement, to be honest.
I generally do too, but
Yeah.
in this case, if you're going to get rid of the 14, which is going to be what you said, 75, 74?
Something like that. Let me work that out 1 second.
It's,
Yeah.
basically that's right where your crossover is. And to me, I think I'd rather have the 50 hertz, get. I'm
Okay.
sorry, you're right. Get rid of that one. Yes, I agree. I'm
Get
sorry.
rid of the. It's actually right around 80 hertz.
Yeah,
When
so
you're.
you want to get rid of that one. So
Yeah.
yes, I agree with that. What you do not want to do is so you're going to end up with the 50 hertz mode, which you're going to have to deal with through Odyssey
Hmm.
or some other stuff. Yes, I agree. I'm sorry. I was too busy calculating other things. But yes, I agree because you do not want that crossover. You already got enough stuff going on right there.
Yeah.
Okay? At 80 hertz, you've got your speakers trailing off and your subwoofers kicking in. So you got a
Hmm.
bunch of stuff going on there. Anyways, they may have issues depending on which other things that are going on. So yes, you want to get rid of that one first. I agree,
Yeah.
100%. Instead of in-ceiling speakers, since he has the clearance above his drop ceiling, he was planning on using regular bookshelf or bipole surround speakers placed above his drop ceiling and firing straight down as his Atmos speakers.
Right.
He's going to make fabric grills that he can fit into the drop ceiling frame in place of ceiling tiles for those positions. He hasn't decided whether to go 7.2.2 or 7.2.4. He already has a pair of Klipsch RS42 bipole speakers. Could he put those in between his 2 rows of seating? And I say this is a different question. This should be a different question.
Well, I mean, it's all kind of related because it's all about the overhead speakers, right?
No, but these are the sidewall speakers. Could he?
No, these he has a spare pair of bipole speakers, and
Yeah.
he's like, could he put those in his ceiling? Call them top something, top front, top middle, top rear, and use those rather than circular, right? What we think of in ceiling speakers. He's like, he's got this drop ceiling with enough space. Could he actually put like a bookshelf speaker or a regular bipole speaker up there, and then just fire it down? Have that be a ceiling speaker?
Yeah.
Yeah, you could. Yeah.
I don't know why you couldn't. I don't know if that Atmos would agree with that. That would be the best.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
want something with a wide dispersion, but
Yes.
those tend to be really wide. So it actually might work. It might, but I don't know. I kind of feel like a direct firing speaker with a good wide dispersion would be
Right.
better in this instance because you're looking for a little bit more of a point source up there than you are. I mean, not actually a point source, but you're looking for because basically the people in the front row might be kind of hearing it coming from behind them. The people in the front row hearing it come from in front of them. So it's sort of not either. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's tricky when you have you got 2 rows of seats. You got a fairly large room, but certainly not like a gigantic room.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly how far back the back row of seats is going to be.
Yeah.
He was going to have enough room for a sub back there, so I'm assuming at least he's got like 2 or 3 feet at the back at the very least. But he might have more. I don't know for sure.
With 2x22, I would think he would have at least 5 or 6.
Yeah, it
feet
could be
back
like
there.
3-4 feet at least. So I mean, the thing to keep in mind with Atmos, this is in my opinion, but I always say THX agrees with me here. Is that you're trying to create a dome of sound. If you take that as the basis of what it is you're trying to accomplish with your overhead speakers, you're trying to make a dome of sound. So like what THX was saying is if you have your surround back speakers, your traditional 7.1
Right.
setup, and you've got surround back speakers and you have them elevated like we always have, at least a couple of feet above seated ear level, when you have them in that position, then the rear height speakers basically become redundant. Like you can't really tell, is it my surround backs or my rear heights? I don't really know. They're not separated enough. And then they're like in a small room where you don't have a ton of space behind you, the top rears also end up sounding kind of redundant because we don't hear that pinpoint precise behind us. They're like, THX was saying you need something behind you. You need 1 pair of speakers behind you, at least, to get that proper envelope of sound going all 360 degrees around you. But 1 is kind of enough, whether it's surround backs or rear heights or top rears, doesn't really matter as long as you got 1 pair back there, but you don't really need more than 1. So that's where they're like, stick with regular 7.1, get your surround backs there, and then use top middles and front heights, because in a smaller room that'll create the most cohesive sort of hemisphere of sound around you. But in a slightly larger room where now you have 2 rows of seats, it's like, well, maybe you've got enough room that you could have surround backs, top rears, top fronts, and then your regular other 5 speakers around you. And it's like, yeah, I could see that. So the choice is kind of, does he have surround backs and then one pair of speakers firing down that are firing down like in between his 2 rows of seats,
Right.
and then another pair of speakers in front of those. Or he was thinking, maybe even thinking just stopping at the one pair of ceiling
Yeah, that's what it
speakers.
sounds like he's gonna do.
Or shift the 2 pairs of ceiling speakers back a bit so that they're basically directly over top of the 2 rows. So you have one pair directly over the front row and then another pair directly over the back row. That's kind of what he was like, which way to go with this. And I'm saying it kind of depends on how forward your seats are in your theater. Because if your seats are fairly far back, I would go for surround backs, top middles that are in between the 2 rows, and then front heights that are up at the front of the theater, basically, because then that's creating that hemisphere. Whereas if your seats are all shifted forward and kind of more towards the middle of the room, and you have a good amount of space behind that back row, then it's kind of like, well, now you probably want 2 rows directly above those seats. So I'm saying it's a depend situation. But I would go for 7.2.4 in a theater this size regardless. I don't think a single pair of ceiling speakers above you is really going to create the sense of movement when things pan overhead. Yeah.
Okay. You actually Atmos, so I'm going to go ahead.
Yeah. I wanted to mention one other thing because we were talking about this on Facebook because he wasn't like dead set on those Ultimax 15s, and he started listening to AV Rant not that long ago, and he hears us talking about SVS subs all the time. He's like, "Oh, what are these SVS subs?"
How could we be the one to introduce you to those subs? It's like it's the internet, dude. How could we? How did you hear about the Ultramat? I had to look those up. Okay.
Yeah, well, Parts Express. If you're cruising AVS Forum, you're going to hear about the Ultimax.
So.
But I mean, obviously, yes, there are some great SVS subs that could work here. But I in searching the alternatives, are our usual suspects for alternatives, which are HSU and Outlaw and Rhythmic and Power Sound Audio, I was like, surprised because HSU has just reduced the prices on their top 3 models, all their models that use 15-inch drivers. So their VTF 3 Mark V, their VTF 15H Mark II, and their ULS 15 now Mark II, their sealed one. What they're doing is they're all sharing the same driver and they're all sharing the same amp now. And apparently HSU went out and bought like many of them and got themselves a price break because it's rare to see basically the same model reduce in price these days.
Right.
But you can now get a pair of VTF 15Hs for $1,750 for a pair, which is great. Like that's cheaper than a single PB13 Ultra.
Yeah, I was gonna say
from SVS.
Yeah.
Even after you include the shipping, because HSU charges shipping, SVS doesn't. But even after you factor in the shipping, 2 VTF 15Hs is now cheaper than a single PB13 Ultra. I'm like, you really don't need that level of output in a 14 by 22, even 12-foot high ceiling theater, because that's still under 4,000 cubic feet. But man, oh man, is there some value in there? Yeah. Because, I just want to draw people's attention. Like, HSU they're undercutting Power Sound Audio. They're undercutting Reaction Audio now for like that level of output. They're definitely undercutting Rhythmic. So it's kind of hard to deny what HSU is doing right now. It's crazy.
I'm going to have to go look at that. I hadn't noticed that. All right, Larry. After hearing Rob on the HD Guys podcast recently, he started listening to us. He's listened intently to the past few episodes and now has some concerns and questions about improving his setup.
Okay.
He's got Martin Logan Motion 40s as his main, Motion 30 as his center, Motion 15 as his surrounds, HSU STF2 sub. Mm-hmm. His AVR is a Yamaha RX V735, and he's got a Samsung LCD. Yay.
Okay.
All right, sounds like a bunch of good gear, to be honest with me.
It is, yeah.
Honest with you as well. First, he's concerned about the current placement of his subwoofer and surrounds, and we're supposed to see the pics for this. What could be done to improve this? Also, he has drunk our Kool-Aid on adding a second sub. If he does, should he replace the HSU with a new pair, or just add a second to what he already has? And based on the layout of this room, where should the pair should be placed? All right, let me look.
Sure.
Right,
okay,
his room is laid out. Looks like that it's on the wall, and directly to the left of his front left speaker is a hallway door slash hallway, something going on over there. The right side of his house has got windows along the entire wall, and behind him where he's sitting is a fireplace, it looks like, or something like that, with the bookshelves all the way around the fireplace and some candles on the mantle.
Yeah, and looking at the pictures in the diagram, it doesn't appear as though he has any seat that is like bang on axis to the center channel. It looks like he's got 2 individual seats that are on either side of that
That would
fireplace.
almost be like in line with the main speakers.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he's got his surround speakers within sort of bookcase type things behind those 2
the
seats.
left side of this? Is it his dining room or something like that?
I'm not actually sure. There isn't a clear shot.
There's no clear shot of
left.
the left side of the room, so we don't know what's over. Well, there looks like there's a wall. If you look
Yeah,
at
there's not like a tremendous amount of space over there, according to the diagram. So he's probably got like another seat over there or something, is what I'd guess. But yeah, I mean, right now I don't see any big problem with the plate. One thing I might suggest is if you can get your surround speakers up a little higher, because right now it looks like they're actually below seated ear level.
yeah, they're sitting in the back. I can't click on the pictures. Hold on, I'm trying to click on the pictures.
So
I restart my computer right before I do this. Yeah, so they are behind the chairs.
yeah,
Is that right? They're behind the chairs on like
Yeah.
the top of these, like this short bookshelf cabinet thing.
Yeah.
Probably at ear level, facing directly forward. It looks like.
more or less. Yeah,
And
I mean,
it looks like the left rear is way to the side, like right next to the wall, and the right rear is actually sheeted all the way in towards the fireplace. Is that right? Is that what?
well,
I'm
I
seeing
think
here?
what's going on there is he's basically chosen one of the 2 seats that are on either side of the fireplace. I think he's chosen one of those seats as his prime seat, and he's made the whole thing slightly cockeyed,
because of
slightly
that.
rotated towards the corner, so that he's put the 2 surround speakers behind so that they're on either side of that one chair.
Yes. Okay. Yeah,
And then he's sort of facing at an angle towards the TV, towards the opposite corner. That's what I think is going on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
So
weird.
yeah, I would say if you could elevate those surround speakers at all, or perhaps even mount them on the wall, that would be one
Yeah,
thing
and
that
having
would.
them face directly forward too is never. I mean, even if
Yeah.
even if you have them cocked towards you, I like them kind of to the behind you, kind of crossing behind you, sort of thing.
Yeah.
So honestly, now he's got a door, and I didn't notice this. The entire right wall is all windows, but right to the right of his TV is a door, so you
That's
can't
right.
push anything over. Because I was gonna say, as things go here, cocking the side might actually be a better solution. But he can't do that because he'll block that door.
No.
He can't get in there out. So that's it. His 60-inch TV, is that what it is? 60-inch? Like those speakers, main speakers, flank that TV. Like
They do.
absolutely right there. There may be 4 inches between them. And on the outside of the right speaker is where his single subwoofer is right now. So the second subwoofer, then, if you wanted to keep that one there, the second subwoofer would go behind your chair. Is where it would go. If that white
towards
chair
the
was your
rear
chair-
left, towards the rear left corner of your room. Yeah.
Yeah. So you actually put it kind of, well, I mean, hell, you could put it right on the fireplace right there if you don't use that. Or you could put it next to, there's a little table next to his chair. You could put it right there. In fact, you can get rid of the table and use it as a table.
Yes.
But they
Now,
don't hold
should
magazines very
he
well.
get a second HSU STF2 or replace both of them with a new pair of subs or get a new one and share
What's
it with
low
the
end of the
STF2?
I remind
25
me.
hertz. 25 hertz is where it's at minus 3 dB. And he's dealing with about 2,500 cubic feet in this room when all the doors are closed.
I'll be honest with you, dude. He's got an awful lot of glassware sitting behind him. And I mean, that's not a comment on the decorating or anything. That's just a comment on how many things can possibly rattle in that house. And they are numerous. You need to buy some of that blue tack because you will be using it. Like, you should buy it in bulk. Because seriously,
the
there's plates,
museum
it looks like
putty.
there's a boat of some sort, lots of cups, a mug or something back there, lots of pictures on the walls, candles all over the place, which is great. I mean, I'm sure these all have very personal meaning for him. But the fact is there's a lot of stuff that can rattle. So if you end up getting bigger subs and small that hit even lower than 25, you might have to be prepared for some trouble. You're going to play some bass sweeps and just track down rattles is what you'll be doing for the first couple of days.
Yeah, it's a tricky thing to answer because honestly, if you had a pair of HSU STF2s in this room size, they'd be fine.
Yeah.
Like, you wouldn't be listening to that going, oh, I am clearly missing a bunch of bass with this setup.
No,
Absolutely not.
Absolutely. 25 hertz is perfectly respectable.
It is possible to get a pair of subs that play even lower and play even louder. That if that is what you want, then that is possible to do. and it's something that the STF2s can't necessarily do all by themselves, but I mean, it's definitely getting into diminishing returns. So it's going to be one of these, are you a bass head where you're like, I gotta have 20 hertz extension and it's gotta be full reference volume rattling my teeth. Okay, if that's you, then you'll want to replace the STF2 that you already have, and you'll want to get a pair of, I would say, like 2000 series subs if it's SVS's lineup, or hey, those HSUs, because they're
looking pretty tasty these days.
$800 for the VTF3, which is a crazy deal. So it can be done, but the pair of STF2s, it's not gonna like leave you feel that things are lacking if you're not a crazy bass head.
Right.
So
yeah. Either way, so he's definitely working with some placement. Some placement issues there, but that's not stuff that you can't not be.
I think he's made very reasonable compromises in all the choices. So really, the only thing is those surround speakers. You could wall mount them or just get them a little bit higher. That's about all I'd really suggest.
Yeah, they do need to come up a little bit.
Yeah.
All right, he's considering upgrading his AVR. Atmos is not required at this time, but having it included is fine. So, what do we recommend?
May I refer you to last week's podcast where I frequently mentioned the 2 articles that I wrote up about all the current AV receivers. Come to avrant.com. Both of those articles are posted. I've got one calling
Basically,
Future Proof.
go to the Rant and or Denon that is in your price point.
Yeah, pretty much.
That does anything you want it to do, and pick the one that you want, because that's what you're going to do.
Because to me, it's difficult right now that these are available, to say, don't get a model that has HDCP 2.2, because it's like, if you keep this receiver for any number of years, you're most likely going to end up using that. I mean, 4K is coming, kind of whether we want it to or not.
Yeah,
it's
going to be here,
And it'll be nice if your AV receiver is not the weak link in your chain and it's ready to handle whatever happens. And all of the Denon and Marantz models, save for the strictly 5.1 models, do both Atmos and DTSX. So if you want to, it's ready to do it. It's hard to deny that kind of flexibility because it's just available now.
So he plays music ripped from CDs from a USB key plugged into his Blu-ray player. The Blu-ray player does support FLAC and WAV files. It sounds good. It's a bit more convenient than playing the CD. Do we have any thoughts on this? Yeah, I think that's pretty good. You should keep doing that. That's my thought. I'm like, I would never do that. I would never do it and put on the USB key, but you've done it already. So, because I'd be too lazy, I just put the CD in. But I would be so lazy that I wouldn't even do that. I'd stream Pandora and just complain about the quality. But you have not done that. You have put it on the USB stick and you plugged it in. I mean, and if that's working, I mean, that's great. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean,
I wonder if the question really here is, if we think that the quality is somehow changed or diminished by
I was leaning that way too. Yeah, but he's saying it's FLAC and WAV. FLAC stands for free lossless audio codec, and WAV has always been lossless. That's, I mean, it doesn't help you save any space either.
Yeah. So okay, first of all, I think it's great that you're doing it, and I think that there is no possible way that there can be any audio degradation because of you doing it.
Yeah. If you were transferring them to a lossy format, and even then, if you told me it was 320 kilobit MP3 or 320 kilobit AAC, I'd be like, you're totally fine.
You're fine.
Because I can flip a coin for me. I can't tell them apart. Yeah, if you had said, hey, I did all these into 128 kilobit MP3s, I'd be like, you can hear that difference. Maybe you want to re-rip them at a higher rate. But FLAC and WAV, it's literally identical to what was on the original CD.
Bit for bit, 1 for 1, 0 for 0. Can be no difference. Okay, no matter how much green marker you paint around the outside of your CD. Ken lives in the condo, and it is really, I love this picture because what he's done is he's taken, like, it looks like he's taken the actual layout from like something. Right. Yeah. And then he
maybe the real estate listing or something.
Yeah, the real estate or something like that. And then took and like grabbed images from like Google or whatever, and then like struck them down and put them to where everything is. So he's got a dining room table that's actually a card table, which I think is hilarious. Which would be awesome, by the way.
I think he said it really is, because I think he has poker games.
Well, that's great. It's fantastic because you can turn them over, you put a top on them and stuff like that. That's great. He even shows us where the clock is. I don't know why, but he does. And then there's
Well, I think he said that's a grandfather clock. That's
is
why he
that
put
what
it in,
that
because
is?
it's like a significant thing.
Oh,
So,
right. Oh, I have friends that have like clocks all over the house. I hate it. Go in there, it's always ringing. Grandfather clocks.
tick tock,
Yeah, I
tick
think I complained
tock.
about it so much they stopped winding them, so they just. I don't know. Anyway, so the left side of the house has got the kitchen. In the middle is the dining room, and it looks like a half bath. And
Yeah,
then
like a
the
powder room.
yeah, it's with the half.
This
Yeah.
looks like a
Oh,
row
right.
house,
Yes, because there's no
right?
half. Yes.
Like this is a row house, isn't it? That's what it
Well,
looks like
it
to
could be,
me.
yeah, and it's got to have stairs someplace, right? So
It
those
does,
stairs.
yeah,
So
over
this
by the
is
kitchen
probably
there.
the bottom floor here. So you walk in, you're walking into the living room. When you walk in the door from where you're sitting in the home theater, when you walk in the room, you're walking right into the front right speaker,
Yeah,
and the couch is on the wall to the directly, on the other side. So on front side there, the TV is right against the wall. In the back, the couch is right against the wall. So
yeah. I mean, it's kind of the only thing he can do in this space. The only thing he could possibly do is flip the couch to the door side and the speakers and TV to the other side. That's really
yeah, he's
the
got a
only
bay
change that's
window.
available here.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to do that anyways, because he's got a bay window right by the couch. So
Yeah.
you don't want to switch it to that side because you're going to get reflections off the TV, and then you can't see the bay window when you're sitting down. All
Yeah.
right, so he's got a 5.1 system. It looks like here. Let me see here.
5.0 is what he's here. I wanted to point that out. 5.0.
Yeah, with his legacy audio classics running in full range since he doesn't have room for a sub. And honestly, the dude seriously does not have room for a sub. I mean, I could probably get one in there.
Yeah, put one in the kitchen.
Or the dining room. You could go put one in the bay window and one near the sliding glass doors, or whatever that is on the other side. So there you go. That's not going to happen, but you could theoretically do that. They play well down. His speakers play well down to about 30 to 25 hertz. He says, which is unfortunately they're placed completely wrong to play bass that low, but you can't do anything about it. He owns the basement below and floor above his theater. But there are other condos to the left and right. If he was to add a sub, is there any way to get down to 20 hertz or below without vibrations transferring to the neighbors?
Ooh.
No, honestly,
Yeah, unlikely.
For the volume that you would want to have 20 hertz at. I'm sorry, it's just not possible. You could
Yeah.
thing in a big bowl of Jello, and it would still transfer sound out into the neighbor's house. It's just the long and the short.
Yeah, this is something that we'll be getting to later as well, this whole transference of sound. Because, I mean, people have heard me talk about, the Auralex GRAMMA or the Subdudes or the sound path isolation feed from SVS, any number of things saying, hey, decouple the bottom of your sub from the floor. It helps with reducing the noise that your neighbors hear in your apartment building or other people in the house. It helps, but it helps in one method of sound transmission, and really you're dealing with like 3 different methods of possible sound transmission. One is just the stuff that's going straight through the air, hitting the wall. Some portion of that is penetrating the wall and going through. Subdude's not going to help you with that.
Nope.
The other major one, and this is very much a common problem, especially in I'm assuming this is a townhouse, row house type of setup.
That's what it looks like, yeah.
Flanking noise. Flanking noise is you got air ducts, you got electrical outlets, you've got plumbing, you've got all these things where if the air can move, the air will move, and it has a nice resonant path inside your wall to the people on the other side of the wall. And your subdude is not going to help you there. The sound is going straight through. So all the subdude or the sound path isolation feed or whatever, the blanket that you folded up and put under your sub, all that can help you with is structure-borne resonance, structure-borne transmission of sound, which is when the floor itself starts physically shaking in sympathy with the physical movement of the sub when the two are in direct contact with each other, and that transmits sound through the entire structure of your building. Decoupling will help you reduce that. So you can lessen the amount of sound that your neighbors might hear, but you're not going to eliminate it. And when you're like sandwiched between neighbors the way that you are, that some kind of flanking noise or just the pure airborne noise is going to escape. There's no way to make it silent for you.
The thing about sound is that sound travels really well through whatever medium it is. It travels best through solids because the molecules are so close together, right? The molecules are vibrating back and forth. It's a compression wave. So it travels very well through whatever medium it is, but it doesn't transfer from one medium to the other well, which is why when you're underwater and your mother comes, at the pool, and your mother comes to the side of the pool and yells at you to get out, you can't really understand what she's saying. This, the water does not, as it transfers from the air to the water, it loses a lot of its energy and it gets distorted. But you can still hear her. You still know some sounds going on, and that's the same thing that's going to be happening here. It's going to hit the wall. And the flanking noise is really the biggest problem, because it's going to go through ducts. It's going to go through cracks in the wall. It's going to go through your power outlets. It's going to go through dryer vents. It's going to go through everything. All right.
Yep.
Everything. Oh, God forbid.
Literally through the drain in the sink in your kitchen. Like, I'm not even joking. Where there's air that can move, it will move.
It will move.
Yeah.
Okay, so now his couch is against the back wall and cannot be moved. I can see why. And his surrounds are on the floor, firing straight up on either side of the couch. Quote, "This has not been an optimal position," end quote. This is what we call an understatement, in case you're wondering. Yes, putting speakers on the ground and firing them up is terrible. It's a terrible position. We agree. It is. It's not his fault, but it is. Well, I mean, it's his fault for doing
it is definitely less than optimal. Absolutely.
Yes. Should he get on-wall speakers? And if so, he has been considering the Axiom QS8s. What did we think of those? What are the brands should you look at? How high on the wall should they be mounted? Blah, blah, blah. I am actually of the opinion that you should just take those things off the ground and put them on either side of your couch and fire them straight across. That's what I think you should do.
Yeah.
Wouldn't bother with on walls. I wouldn't do any of that. I would just put them up, put them to the side of the couches, and have them and sit in the middle. You would be surprised at how good that will sound.
Yeah, you could use just regular speaker stands, or if you wanted, you have that wall behind your couch. You could, say, put some little shelves.
Just put a little shelf up there.
Put little shelves there, and just put your speakers on the shelves, facing each other. That's the key. Facing each other, not facing forward, because you're too close to them. You'd be hearing the sound reflecting off the front wall, which would be weird. So the two speakers facing each other. Yeah, so some
acoustical material on your back wall right there. That'd be pretty cool too.
Yeah, but try to get them elevated, because you don't want to be wearing them like headphones, firing straight into your ears. So try to get them a couple of feet, the tweeters that is, a couple of feet above your head when you're sitting down. But you could definitely do that with just some shelves on the wall or some tall stands.
So to answer your question, though, the Axiom QS8s, I own those for quite a few years. They are very nice, very diffuse speakers. They fire, they call them quad poles because they like to name things really stupidly in order so that people will think they're basically just bipole speakers.
Yeah.
Okay. But they fire in 4 directions.
Yeah.
It just makes them a little bit more diffuse. And they're great. They're great little speakers.
But they're overpriced now.
Are they? Well, what's that?
They're like $600 now.
Are they? Well, I wouldn't. Yeah.
It's nutty.
Okay. It's a little. When I bought them, they were like $400.
I know.
Or something. So
That's
I like them a lot better at that price than I like them now.
Exactly.
Because believe me, they have made exactly 0 changes to that design. 0 changes. They have not changed a dang thing since I bought them 10, 12, 14 years ago, whatever it was. Okay. One of the things he likes about us is that we aren't fooled by audiophile snake oil. That is true. I am looking at acoustic system resonators, okay, which I did click on that link. It's a review for a Stereo Times, not Stereophile, Stereo Times review of these little things that look like those little prayer bowl things where you go, oh, when you put the little thing, and supposedly absorb sound by the magic of stupidity. So they don't actually sell those anymore. I clicked on the link to buy them, and they don't sell them anymore. So those don't exist. I guess he went out of business. I don't know how. Anyways, clearly because no one will give him any money. Anyways, he has yet to hear, but he has heard us, specifically Rob, recommend green glue, which strikes him as being potentially snake oily. What is so magic about green glue that makes it different from other construction adhesives or glues that retain their elasticity or give? Well, you're going to have to answer that question.
Sure. Well, first I want to address the snake oily thing, because to me, snake oil means it doesn't do what they say it does. That's snake oil, right? They're saying this thing does such and such a thing, and it doesn't. But they're selling it on the premise that it does. That's snake oil. Where I think he's coming from is maybe it's overpriced, which I'm like, some people even call, say, Blue Jeans cable they lump them in with the snake oil cables. They're like, hey, these cables are more expensive than monoprice cables, more expensive than the cheapest brand I can find on Amazon. And everyone's saying the monoprice cables work just as well as the Blue Jeans cables. So Blue Jeans cable is snake oil. It's like, no, Blue Jeans cable does what they say it does. It measures exactly how they say it measures. Maybe that's more expensive than you want to pay for now, but they're not snake oil. So the green glue is not snake oil. And what actually separates it from the construction adhesive or, like we said, acoustic caulk that we talked about before that you buy at a hardware store is they have actually sent it to be measured by independent labs. So they have actual measurements of how it affects sound transmission, which most other construction adhesives haven't done that because they haven't made it specifically for the purpose of being a damping material to stop sound. They've made it to be a sealant, or a caulk, and they haven't really come at it from that side. So that's what separates it, is they actually have measurements from an independent lab that they can show you that it says this is what it does. Now, does that mean it is the cheapest solution to do the same thing? Nope, not necessarily. As long as you're using something that remains elastic, that never fully cures and never fully hardens, it should work as a damping material. Will it be just as effective as green glue? I don't know. I don't know because it hasn't been independently measured. That's the separation there. So I would say I definitely disagree that green glue is snake oil. However, I could say, yeah, maybe it's overpriced. Maybe there's an alternative that's cheaper that works just as well, but I can't say for sure. There's Quiet Solutions. Quiet Solutions has their own quiet glue. It's basically the same stuff. It costs more than green glue. So if you were comparing those two, you'd be like, hey, the Quiet Solution stuff is, the overpriced one, and green glue's the high value, which is exactly how green glue was selling itself for a while, because they were like, hey, we're cheaper than the alternative, the only other one that actually has measurements to confirm that it does what it says it does. So, yeah, I definitely don't think it's snake oil.
Yeah, when it's hard because you can kind of go down the rabbit hole of chasing value, and that's where we get into the sort of disagreements with people who are in the DIY, build your own speakers, do the Dayton audio kit stuff. Which there's nothing wrong with that, but at some point, for me, there has to be a trade-off between what's just getting the absolute cheapest thing and what's getting the thing that has value based on performance and based on how much time I'm willing to put into it. Blue Jeans, for example, they use top-notch connectors. Their cables are all put together very well without any sort of extra crap, put on there for looks and stuff. You're right. They're not the cheapest, but they certainly you're certainly getting a step above what everybody would, just like when you buy your cables raw. Now, I've bought my cables raw before. I've done that before, where I'm paying like speaker cables like 17 cents a foot or something like that. I bought hundreds of feet of it. The difference, first of all, I determined it myself, which is why I was back there this weekend dealing with that, my receiver turning itself off. But more importantly, the quality of the cable, while it passes the signal just as well, is much harder to work with. It's a cable that is it's a bit thinner. It doesn't have as much shielding around it, and it's not as supple. Like the cables that I bought were, really good 12-2 cables, but they were just a lot harder, which ended up being good because I was mostly threading them through walls.
Sure.
And you want something that has a little, you don't want to
holds its shape a little, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that ended up working for me. But when I got the Blue Jeans cable, I'm like, yes, I can see where the extra money went. I can see where the money went. And I know for a fact that they're paying more per foot for those cables than I paid for my cables. That means their cables, when they get them from the manufacturer, cost more than my cables did when I got them raw, because I went to Westlake Audio, which is where I don't even know if they're still doing this online, but they used to be able to go there and just order hundreds of feet of cable, no problem. And I found Blue Jean cable on their website, because it was just like it's really the basic thing. And I was searching for speaker cable, and it came up. And it said Belden, blah, 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 for Blue Jeans. And I was like, and there it was. And it was like twice the price of mine.
Yeah.
So whatever it was. And I called the guy up, and I'm like, I want to order this stuff. I want to make sure, I don't want to do it online because I want to make sure that I get exactly what I want. because I'm not exactly sure what I'm looking at, and talk to him about it. I'm like, yeah, and there was this other one for Blue Jeans. He goes, what? Like this other one for Blue Jeans. He goes, what tell me exactly what what you search for. And I told him what it was, and he went. It was gone. It was off the website.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like oh, that's special order. We don't put that up there for.
Yeah, no, it's funny because like similar things have happened in the absorption panel business, right? We used to have companies where they were several hundreds of dollars per panel. Then GIC came along, completely undercut everybody, but they had the measurements of their products to back it up, and everyone's like, "Whoa, what a value!" And then some other companies started undercutting GIC a little bit, and then there are people like, "Well, now GIC's the ripoff because they charge $65 for a panel, and I can get one for $58." So all of a sudden GIC is like overpriced. It's like, well, yeah, no, because their products still do what they say they do. They still are made with the level of quality that they're made at. Can you get it even cheaper? Okay, yeah.
I believe that you can, but it doesn't mean that they're snake oil. It just means that they're
exactly. Yeah, it doesn't magically turn GIC into snake oil or a terrible value. So yeah, that's where I'm coming at.
Some of them are terrible values, but
yeah, when Green Glue came out compared to Quiet Rock, it was like orders of magnitude cheaper, and everyone's like, well, Quiet Rock is now the ripoff. So it's funny that now Green Glue is being called the ripoff.
And lastly, and I've already forgotten what his name is, Ken wants to know, how can I get a cool nickname like Infinite Gary or I Don't Live in the McMansion Mike?
Which I don't know, dude. Isn't Mike, that's Chris, but
well, I know, but that's what you put it on there.
Yeah, that was his quote.
What he said, yeah. So I don't know. You have to do something that makes me say something about you that sticks. Not everything sticks. Sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't. So I don't know.
It comes up organically. That's what happens.
Animal sacrifices, maybe. Is what I've decided I'm going to say to people when they ask me, when I've done something for them, which happens, they're like, oh man, I would love to, maybe I'll buy you a beer. I say, yeah, I accept beer and animal sacrifices. Animal sacrifice, of course, is just food that I can eat, but it sounds a lot better when you say animal sacrifices. So that's my new thing. I'll see if that sticks. Tommy is building a dedicated home theater in his basement. He currently has a Harman Kardon AVR 254.
Mm-hmm.
Is that older? Feels like
it's older. Yeah.
Do they have anything new? I can't remember the last time a Harman Kardon came out.
Yeah, I know. I haven't seen any announcements from them in a long time.
It hasn't been this year. Don't think it was last year. I don't know. Anyways, he's got this thing powering his 5.1 system, including a Send CMT 340 SE mains and a pair of SVS PB2000s. I like both of those.
Nice gear.
He plans on using a BenQ W1080 ST projector. Would video or audio quality benefit from upgrading to something like a X2100W? And 7.1 is not a concern. Well, you're going to get multi-QXT, so yeah. Your audio will probably sound better. Just going, straight Harman Kardon versus straight Denon, it's going to sound the same.
Yeah.
You add in the room correction, it's going to sound different. It should sound better. Should. Can't guarantee it. I mean, I don't know what room you've got in this basement room you've got in. Maybe it's all concrete. It's not magic, but it can. It should make it sound better. Multi-QXT should do that.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of he's sticking with 5 speakers.
Yeah.
If he wasn't using the room correction, it's like then there's not really much difference to be had. That AVR 254, it's old enough that it had HDMI 1.3 inputs, so really? It didn't handle 3D. But he's like, I asked him, he's like, he doesn't use 3D anyway, even though his 1080.
Like everybody else.
That's right. So it's not going to be affecting your video. It's going to be the only thing affecting your audio is the room correction. So like the 2100, it's hard for me to recommend that highly because it doesn't have HDCP 2.2. It it doesn't have Atmos or DTS X, which obviously he's not doing if he's sticking with 5 speakers max anyway.
HDMI 2.2.
Yeah, so I'm like, if you do it, you may as well go for one of the ones I listed in that article over at avrant.com, the future-proof and bang for your buck 7-channel receivers. If you're going to upgrade, you may as well do that because then at least you're getting something that legitimately your Harman Kardon cannot do. It cannot do HDCP 2.2. The only way to do it is to get a new receiver. Yeah. So I wouldn't replace what you have with a 2100. I might replace it with a 2200, but I wouldn't be expecting earth-shattering differences in either case.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on how bad your how bad your room is, or
Yeah.
how good your room is, and all that. So there's going to be a difference, though. Just a
Yeah.
little bit. Now, Tom. Is that Tommy and then Tom back to back? Holy moly.
Yeah, it might have been.
Okay. Tom is an enclosed 13 by 21 by 8-foot theater with the jut out on the left side. He built a stage up front and made his own custom speaker stands filled with aquarium rocks.
Yep.
I wonder why
They're
the
heavy.
aquarium rocks. Exactly. That seems like regular
Do
rocks.
aquarium rocks do anything moisture-wise?
They're just kind of smooth. I don't think so.
Nah.
Why would they do that? Anyways, to hold the Ascend Acoustic Sierra 2 that he bought to replace the Elemental Design speakers he had before.
Those Elemental Design speakers. Yeah.
Yeah, those are...
He heard a difference. I'll bet he heard a difference.
I bet he did too. Elemental Designs was a company where they measured their speaker in the corner and then
closet. They stuck it in a
I
closet.
don't know what they did, but they were claiming like some sort of weird, really low, and I was like, dude, these things roll off at like 80 or 100 or something. And they're like, oh yeah, oh okay. Anyways, he bought the Sierra 2s on Rob's recommendations, and thankfully he loves them. Now, the pictures he shared with us are slightly different than I'm thinking. That's a dented. I'm looking wrong.
Yeah, he does have this stage up front. It's kind of cool because what he did, he actually got 3 horizontally oriented Sierra 2s. So they have their tweeter. Their tweeter is still vertical. It's still up and down. It's the ribbon tweeter. But it is beside the woofer. And then the whole cabinet is, horizontal. So he's got 3 of those built into the stage that's below his screen. And then they're angled upward a little bit. So
right, because I was looking mostly at the pictures from the magazine article that he had written.
Ah, okay.
And those must have been the Elemental Design.
They were, yeah. He was saying that's his older setup.
Okay, I have to look at this now and see if I can see what
It's almost a shame because I think he has the espresso finish on the Sierra 2s, and then you never see them. They're hidden behind his stage. It's almost a shame.
Almost a shame. Oh, he's pretty close to that back wall too. Oh, and he moved his subwoofer. Wasn't there a subwoofer inside the cabinet before, right? So
there was, yeah. Previously, he had it like within the stage, and then he moved the one sub that he has, which is an Elemental Designs 12-inch sub that he has, 350-watt amp, I think, in that one.
If you're looking at this, he's sitting...
He's got in the jut out.
Off the back wall, maybe 3 or 4 feet the most, maybe?
Yeah, it's a walkway, so it's probably like 3.5 feet.
He's got a couch, it looks like a 3-seater couch. In the front of that, he's got 2 individual seats. I'm guessing that the couch was the main thing that he has, and then up front he's got like this it's like a it's like, I don't want to call it a platform because it's really not, but it's sort of this cabinet that he's built up there, and then above it is a screen, and inside the cabinet are these 3 speakers off to the side. At the back of the room is his subwoofer someplace. Is the back right corner? Is that where it is? I was missing.
Right now, his sub is like if you think of a rectangular room, but then there's an extra little jut out on the left wall. He's put his equipment in a rack within that jut out, and he's got his current subwoofer within that jut out as well.
Ah, okay.
So it's on the left side.
Right now, it's the left side of the road. He'd like to upgrade to 2 subwoofers.
Good choice.
He was thinking of placing 1 sub within his stage between his center and front right speaker, and then placing the second subwoofer on the back wall about 3 feet from the left side, which would place it diagonally opposite the sub at the front. Any spots in his room that we think would be better. Now, that cabinet is basically, it's got the entire front of it is all acoustically transparent material. I don't know about the top. Is the top wood?
Oh, it looks like it from the one piece that was left when he removed them to see inside.
Yeah,
so I think it's a solid top.
It's a solid top.
Yeah.
So it's in basically a cabinet.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not in love with that. Could we put corners instead? But even then, the front corner is still going to be inside that cabinet, no matter what. Could go left, right, I guess. But then he's going to have to.
I think that's blocking a walkway, though. That's the issue.
Yeah.
I have no real beef with the. I mean, this is essentially diagonally opposite corners, just moved in a little bit from the corners.
Yeah. I always have a problem with everybody. I always get a little whenever somebody wants to put something inside a cabinet, without, I don't know. Yes. I don't see you have any options, dude. So yes, let's
Yeah,
go.
that's pretty much the best option that you have in this room with the seats where they are. So
All right, and should
yeah.
he buy two identical subs or attempt to match something to his existing ED Elemental Designs A3 300? Any chance his existing sub will make the new sub sound worse? Uh, I looked it up. Shoot, do I still have it open? I looked it up. I don't remember. Wait, here it is. I do remember.
I mean, it's a fairly capable looking sub that's appropriate for the size of the room that he has.
I think it plays down to, well, they claimed all sorts of nonsense.
Yeah, they did.
Stuff.
Yeah,
they claim sort of weird stuff. So, like room response is like 19. What the hell does that mean? You know. So, I just oh crap.
closet response 19.
Yeah, the closet response is 19 hertz. So,
yeah, I mean, just sort of going by specs and size and what I knew of Elemental Design subs from the reviews of other models that they have, I'm like, this is
18 hertz.
Yeah, I mean, it's in the ballpark of like an HSU VTF2, you know, their current VTF2. It's right in there. It's the same size box, same amount of amp power, same size driver, and all that. Similar weights, even, which is a clue to the magnet size, if nothing else. So,
or how much MDF they use in the day.
Or how much MDF, yeah. So, I mean, I think like a VTF2 would match up probably just fine with that, and it would be adequate for this room size. I mean, you'd be right there.
Yeah.
You'd be right where you need to be. So, it could definitely be done that way. I'd have no real beef doing that.
I don't think that. I don't know. You see, the thing is, you'd have to look up see if you could find any measurements on linearity of the A3300. See if you could find out some information about that. If you're really super worried about it, you could dump it, and get something and get two subs that you're more comfortable with. I never really heard any problems with the Elemental Design subs, but then again, I didn't really know very many people who had them.
They had some amp problems.
Yeah, I remember that, but that's not the same thing as
and they eventually went out of business.
There's always that. You certainly aren't going to get your warranty out of it.
No, there is no warranty coverage on your current sub, yeah.
Anyways, he was drawn to the Rhythmic FVX15 and the HSU VTF15H. He figured either would deliver more headroom and extension than he would ever need.
Yeah.
He'd never be left wanting for more. But he's all ears if we think they are overkill and a less expensive option would perform just as well. They're certainly overkill.
They are overkill, yeah. You do not need the level of output capable from either of those subs.
I'm telling you, it's a depressing thing when you barely turn the little knob on your subwoofer. You're like, dang it, why can't I turn you louder?
But I do have to say, I mean, the VTF3, not the VTF15H, but the VTF3 Mark V, $800 right now. Yeah. It's like that thing's got more output than you need, but at the same time, you're really not paying any extra. So as long as it physically fits, because these are big, please build a cardboard box so you understand how big these are, because they might not even fit in that stage at the front. Like, they seriously might not fit. They are huge subwoofers.
Yeah. So for the space at the back of his theater, he likes the idea of a SVS PC 2000 cylinder. He also taken note of all the additional tuning options in the SVS Plus and Ultra Series models. Would he get any use out of those extra features? He basically just wants to sort out what combinations of subs to buy. I have never really thought that tuning options on a subwoofer are nice. I suppose. I guess it's a nice thing to have an option of doing. But the fact is you're going to pick one, and that's going to be it. And and
you're using a modern surround sound AV receiver, so you're unlikely to really be using any of those features in any significant way. They're super nice to have if you have a 2-channel only setup and your preamp has no bass management and it has no room correction. It's got nothing. And then all of a sudden you have all the features that are in the Plus or the Ultra series. It's like, ooh, I can really tune this thing to my room and get a perfect blend with my speakers. Wonderful to have. But with a surround sound processor, you really don't need it. Yeah. You don't. You need an LFE input. That's what you need. And a volume dial.
That's right. And a volume knob. And you're done.
Pretty much.
So can you buy a sub that's too much for this room? You could. And is there a problem with that? There's really not. There's not. I mean, there's just the problem that you spent a lot more money than you needed to, and you've got subwoofers that you could put in an auditorium and
Yeah.
still be okay.
I
Uh,
mean, I'm tempted to say because the PC 2000 perfect for his room size.
yeah,
So if that like the floor space fits and you like that it's a cylinder and it's tall and it's round, so if you have to walk by it, you brush by that and you don't poke yourself with the corner of a pointy sub, any of those type of things, like that's a great sub to choose. It's not more expensive than the HSU options. Does it play as loud as the VTF3? No, but you really don't need it
won't
to,
need it
and you
anyways.
didn't spend any extra to get there. So I'm tempted to say like get the PC 2000 first because you already know that that's going to look great at the back of your theater. Try it with your A3300 positioned at the front and see how it goes. And if you're like, that A3300, or eventually you just want to, get a PB 2000 to put onto that stage because it matches up perfectly with the PC 2000, then there's that. But you don't have to right away. You can see how it goes, and that way you're spending the minimum amount of money to get exactly what you want.
yeah.
Yeah,
You can always tell them that you already bought one and that you were now buying the second one. Maybe they'll give
that's
you.
true. Yeah, talk to them ahead of time. Yeah.
I would definitely talk to him ahead of time about that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, should he add acoustic absorption on the inside of his stage he built?
Yeah.
Would that help anything?
Yeah.
He has measured, and he does have some long decay times.
Ah.
He's already planning on adding more acoustic panels at the back of his room to address this. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Fill
You should
that
just
fill that
pathway
cavity.
up. Anything but the back. Fill it up. Fill it up.
Yep.
You want to make sure you have a little bit of air circulation go through there, because if you do put a sub
True.
in there, it gets hot, and you don't want that. But yeah, fill it up.
Yeah, just like Tom was saying, think of it as a cabinet. If you're doing an in-cabinet install, you would have all the airspace fill. I mean, like we say, you're not packing it in there, you're not stuffing it in, but you're loosely filling the airspace with insulation instead, so that you're not getting a bunch of resonance and stuff from that stage itself.
I
'Cause you
can't
definitely
believe
want
that the
to
top
avoid
of that thing's not flexing up and down whenever a sub's hit.
Maybe it screws in. I don't know.
It's gotta. It's gotta. It
Or
has
it's held on with museum putty, maybe.
There you go. Maybe it's green glue. Anyways, all right. And yes, you should add a lot more absorption to that theater. Honestly, if you are only now putting some on the back wall, you've got all those spaces, because it's really a really super duper theater. Like, it's been done up, and it is. I hate my computer so much. It has been. It's featured on the whatever. I can't get to this magazine.
Was that like Electronic House, I think?
I think it is Electronic House. It was featured on Electronic House. It's
Yeah.
a beautiful theater. Like, each one
It
of those
really is. It's very nice.
red spaces that you have on the wall there, those should be acoustic panels, or could be acoustic panels. You've already got the.
I think they are.
Are they? Because they're awfully flat. They're awfully flat. When you look at them, they're really quite flat. So, and I'm wondering about his surround speakers too. I'm trying to see.
Yeah, they're quite high.
Yeah, well, I think there's
Well,
got
surround backs, yeah.
that are really, really high and very widely spaced, and then he's got in-wall speakers.
In-wall surrounds.
for
The in-wall
his
surrounds look fine. Yeah.
Those look fine. Yeah, those look fine. But he does
Mhm.
have 2 rows of seats, so I'm wondering which row they're next to. It's very hard to see in these pictures. But he's got a super cool. It's basically a LCD, or I don't know, plasma, something like that, turned to the side. Okay, so it's in a portrait mode.
Vertical. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a portrait mode, and he's got it connected up to an Apple little Apple computer,
Mhm.
which is running Boxy, and it does I don't know, something
Movie
like
posters that he can change on the fly.
400 of them.
Yeah.
400 different posters go through.
I'm sure that number's gone up by now.
Oh yeah, that's just mini computer, some Boxy. Yep, is what he's doing. And he's got the motorized anamorphic lens and the whole 9 yards or something. I don't know what that lens is. It looks like it's going at an angle. Very odd. Anyways, so really, really nice theater. But if you can, you definitely need as much absorption as you can in a room like that, because it's very, other than the seats, it's very empty. Lastly, he uses Aura bass shakers in the seats. He says the trick is to get the levels just right so that they add to the experience and don't overwhelm anything. A big part of why he doesn't get all the tactile feeling he would like without bass shakers is because he often listens late at night while the family members are asleep, so he has to keep the volume reasonable, about 75 dB max. So given those factors, would new dual subwoofers possibly be any different?
Well, you're going to get rid of a standing wave.
You got
So
that.
at one frequency, it'll be different for the people upstairs, or actually more than one because there's the harmonics as well. But it's not like it's going to suddenly make it so the people upstairs can't hear the bass now, as compared to when you just had one sub. That's not going to change.
Yeah, it's going to actually sound quieter to you when you're in the room. That's gonna happen because the bass is going to get more even, and I don't think. I mean, unless that element of those lines really isn't playing as low as it says it is, I don't think you're going to feel much different at 75 dB.
No,
you're going to be feeling a lot. So I don't know that is. But what you're going to have is more even bass across your entire all of your seats.
You're gonna love it, man. You're gonna love having two subs.
I have a hard time saying that because I love having two subs, and even when I first got them, I went, well, you know, you can't. It's kind of quieter. I don't understand. You know? And I knew it was going to be quieter, but I was like, you know, I don't know. I don't think this is a big of a deal until you know the bass hits.
Yeah.
And then you're like, yes. All right, we are burning through these freaking questions.
Are we? It's been over an hour.
I know, but we're burning.
But we're doing. We haven't told people how to ask us a question. We haven't told them how to get in touch with us.
Right into that, didn't we? Oh,
we skipped right over that, but that's fine. We can do it now.
We could. Or we could wait till the end.
Let's do it now.
All right.
Let's not tease people.
All right. You're the one teasing people. I can't believe I forgot to do that. All right. This is AV Rant, the home theater podcast where we answer your questions. To get your questions answered, all you have to do is ask. You can ask us by emailing us at tom@avrant.com, rob@avrant.com, or questions at avrant.com. In fact, email all three. That's always the best way to go.
It is handy.
It is handy. It makes our life easier. You can come to the website, which is www.avrant.com, and comment there, or facebook.com/avrantpodcast. It's one of probably the best ways to get a hold of us. We do a fairly good job of keeping up on that. Twitter, Rob is at First Reflect. I am avrant_Tom. And our producer, Austin, is at Austin Pond. Is that right?
That's correct, yep. It's Austin spelled with an E.
It is spelled with an E.
For folks who are looking it up. Yeah, we can mention Austin's podcast too, because he's got one. Yep. It is We Watch Movies. Someone wanted to know that, and it was like right on the week when we forgot to mention it, because we've done a pretty good job of mentioning it most weeks. But it's We Watch Movies. That's Austin's podcast. He and his friends who went to film school, they are film school people, basically just review a movie. It might be old, it might be new. We don't know. Find out every week. Yeah. And if you come to avrant.com, you can support the podcast. Over on the right-hand side of that webpage, there is a thing that says support AV Rant. There is a cup of coffee that Tom made in Photoshop, and it's very nice. And you click on that, and it gives you a PayPal link. You don't have to have a PayPal account. You can just use a credit card. And last week we did mention Carl. He was wondering if his donation went through. It did, Carl. You were our listener of the week last week.
One of four. The other way you can become a listener of the week is support the podcast in any way that you think is viable. One way. One way was one of our listeners sent me a sticker of that he had put on his race car. So I had it put on a magnet, which I put on my car, which was stolen. Yeah. Why would you steal that? Which possible need could you have for my AV Rant podcast?
I guess they're going to take a bumper sticker and put it over it. And
they're jerks. That person.
Or maybe they're going to sell the magnet for all 30 cents that it's worth.
I was so upset. It really was. But if you buy something and let people know about it, let the person who you bought it from, specifically the manufacturer, know about it. Let us know. CC us on the email, and we will mention you as a. But we've had people support the podcast in all kinds of ways. Craig, is it Craig? I don't remember. Yeah, who always forwards all of my or likes all of my retweets, all of my tweets about the podcast. He gets mentioned every once in a while, like just now. And you know, there's just be creative. If you're an artist, hey, do some art. You know, maybe I'll use it as a cover too, and we can talk about it. Ted did our music, our outro music, so he gets mentioned every once in a while as well. So there you go. All right, Scott. Did we already do Scott?
Scotty. No, we did not, because this is the longest series of questions ever.
That's saying something, because if and then Gary usually.
Actually, I think it equals Gary's maximum count. I think that's what happened.
Scott started by recommending the How It Should Have Ended videos on YouTube. He has heard us mention Pacific Rim several times, so he thought their engine was more fun. Okay, they're ending. Sorry, it was more fun. I will watch that because that sounds like awesomeness. About a year ago, we recommended the Revel Concerta S12 surrounds and M12 bookshelf speakers for surround backs. He says the side surrounds are great, but the backs are underwhelming, although that might just be his Yamaha RX V671 doing a poor job of utilizing them. I did not recommend those. Rob did because I've never heard those speakers.
Yeah, it might also just be that surround back speakers don't get a heck of a lot to do.
They're really kind of back there.
Yeah, that's the one I always say. If you're gonna skimp anywhere, you can definitely skip on your surround backs. They do get short shrift. I wouldn't blame the speakers or the Yamaha, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm with Byron. No, for sure not the Yamaha.
Yeah, it really just might be the lack of their use in soundtracks. It could also be where they're positioned, because I don't know exactly how they're positioned in his room. But I can see be disappointed if you're hoping that it was going to transform the way your theater sounds. It's like, no, remember Roland, who used to come to our hangouts all the time. He's like, yeah, I put surround backs up and I took them back down because they just weren't worth it. He's like, it's not that I couldn't hear any difference at all. It's that the difference they made wasn't worth it. And I'm like, yeah, well, I can see that.
Thing I do with my surround backs, because I was sitting awfully close to my back wall. It was a walkway, so there's probably, there may not have been, there was definitely between the bottom of the chair, but with the recliners and stuff like that, how they kind of lean back, there probably wasn't 2.5 feet between the back of my couch and that. And those surround backs, I thought it made everything sound worse, to be honest with you. But I was using more diffuse speakers in the back, and they were very, very wide. I did not place them very well. That was back before that was before I even worked for Audioholics. Anyways, he's thinking about Atmos and DTS X. He has a vaulted ceiling, so he doesn't think that the upward firing speakers are a good option. The Klipsch guy thinks they are, but that dude,
but that was when he was introducing Klipsch's own upward firing speakers, so with a grain of salt.
He isn't sure whether to go 7.1.2, 5.1.4, or 7.1.4. He could go 5.1.4 and simply rename his surround back speakers to rear heights. Do any of the 2015 AV receivers allow the left and right pairs of ceiling speakers to be given different distances?
Okay, so like I've kind of been saying, as long as you have one pair of speakers behind you, somewhere behind you in the room to complete the dome of sound around you, it doesn't really matter all that much what you name them, because you have the renderer inside. You're dealing with audio objects that are just given three-dimensional coordinates, and whatever speakers are available to the AV receiver, that's what it's going to use. So if you say, hey, I don't have any speakers behind me other than top rears, it'll be like, all right, I'll use top rears when there's a sound behind you, because that's what I have available to me. The one reason I'd continue to just call them surround backs is because, like I say, whether they're called surround backs or rear heights really doesn't matter. They end up being redundant in their sound anyway. So I'd call them surround backs just because then when you are playing regular 7.1, not Atmos, and not using an upmixer, you still have surround backs. Whereas if you name them rear heights, all of a sudden you switch to a 7.1 soundtrack and just play it, normally, and it'll say, well, you don't have surround backs, so here's 5.1. Right.
That's exactly what I was going to say. The same thing. You want to make sure that you use the ones that have their actual names in the channels for DTS and True HD.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling on it is if you can go 7.1.4, go 7.1.4 for the simple reason of it gives you a more complete dome. You can use top middles, which are noticeable. Like, I gotta say, if you're gonna put speakers above you, I'm a fan of using the top middles because you notice them. You're like, hey, there's sound right above me. And then you can also use front heights. And front heights are used in a lot of other listening modes, like Odyssey DSX or DTS Neo X or Dolby Pro Logic 2Z or, whatever. Yamaha Presence Cinema Surround HD, whatever the heck they call it. You can use front heights in all of those. So, if you're interested in being able to switch between a bunch of listening modes, 7.1.4 with a combination of traditional 7.1, including surround backs, and then adding front heights and top middles, that is the most like universal speaker layout that you can have, where all of those positions, except for the top middles, can be used by other listening modes as well.
Yes.
If you can't, then whether it's 7.1.2 with a combination of surround backs and top middles, or 5.1.4 with a combination of top fronts and top rears, it's like effectively, as long as you have some pair of speakers behind you, it doesn't sound all that different.
Right.
So yeah, that's mine. As far as the left and right pairs of ceiling speakers having different distances, like let's say you put in top middles, and the top middle left speaker is, I don't know, 8 feet away from you, and the top middle right speaker is 10 feet away from you because you're sitting slightly off center or something like that. You can totally do that. You can totally do that in the AV receivers because they give a separate distance for each individual speaker, just like all the regular speakers you already had.
Yeah, they haven't done. I haven't. Yeah. All right. He'd like to use dual subwoofers. The main room is 20 by 25 by 8, and sometimes by 8 up to 15 feet high because of the vaulted ceilings.
Yeah.
But it's
big
got
room.
It's a big room. Yeah, it's a big room. It is a big room. It's got lots of openings, so the total volume of air is around 10 to 12,000 feet.
Woo!
He's using a JBL Pro SP222, which has got two 12-inch drivers in it, which he says is okay, but isn't hitting below 35 hertz or so, which I do not define as okay. He isn't sure where to place two subs. Up front by his TV is easy, but putting the sub at the back of the room with the dining table would have low Wi-Fi acceptance factor. Do we have any suggestions? Well, what about the sidewalls? Is that not an option?
Well, one side is open to kind of a an office. If you're looking forward, then the right side of his theater is basically like a sort of office and hallway and stuff like that.
Corners.
Diagonally opposite corners.
And you do pick two corners. They're opposite each other. Those are
your
best options. Any place where you can find a place towards the back or one side, the harder to do side, and find a place where it's acceptable, and then mirror that on the other side of the room, whatever it is, and then buy two of the biggest subs that you can get.
Maybe these HSUs.
Yes, like the HSUs we're talking.
As far as price goes.
Oddly, okay, now he was considering the RBH SX 1212 PR, but they're really expensive, 10 grand for the pair. Yeah, don't buy those. He'd love to spend less than $3,000 with about in-ceiling subs. You have a vaulted ceiling. Where are you putting these in-ceiling subs? I don't understand.
And I haven't seen in-wall or in-ceiling subs that are created for this kind of output.
No.
Because they're thin enough to fit within the cavity of a ceiling.
The biggest ones I've seen are they'll take up like an 7-foot wall or something like that. And I haven't seen those in forever. And even then, they play down to about 35 hertz. I think 30 maybe. They just don't play that low. And the output, not going to get anywhere near what you're going to need. So, by the way, you're going to be flexing some walls. If you're going to get enough output for 12,000 cubic feet, you're going to have some big hunkin' subs, dude. So the HSUs that we were just talking about are pretty much where you want to be.
Really, because I mean they are without question the most output for the least amount of money. Now I mean like the Rhythmic, their FV15 HP, it can play even louder than that HSU VTF 15H. It can just on measurements, but you're talking $1,300 for one versus $900 for one, or $1,750 for a pair. You could get 4 of the HSU VTF 15Hs. I mean, yes, you're looking at $3,500 now. But I mean, compared to the $10,000 for a pair of the RBHs.
Read between the lines here. The thing that makes me think that he might want the RBHs is also aesthetics.
Looks, exactly.
So if that's the case, then you're running into a completely different problem here, which is how are you going to make those HSUs look good?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was going to suggest, PC 13 Ultras from SVS cylinders. Because those... Yeah. Well, I don't know if the cylinders would be any less objectionable, but they are certainly different than gigantic black boxes, because the HSUs, the Rhythmics, are gigantic black boxes.
Do the new 13? Okay, because the 2000s, the PC 2000 has a top on it now, right? It had a rear firing port. There's the Ultras still have the grill on top.
They do, yeah. The Ultras, the PC 13 Ultras still have the grill on top and 3 upward firing ports with a downward firing driver.
You can't tell your wife, well, you can just put a plant on it.
Right, yeah.
You don't want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, the 13 Ultras, I mean, even a pair of them, you wouldn't be pressurizing 12,000 cubic feet. But the nice thing is you can literally turn the SVS subs as loud as they can possibly go. You can turn the volume dial as high as it will go, and they're still safe. They will not kill themselves. Like a lot of other subs, you can overdrive them, you can bottom them out, you can cause them to go into crazy high distortion. The SVS subs are very well protected, so you can make them go as loud as they possibly can, and they're still safe to use that way. Yeah.
So if aesthetics is an issue, then you might have to go with something a little bit prettier. Or, better yet, you could also find somebody who lives in town or talk to HSU and find out about, getting you the subs raw and then having somebody locally finish them for you.
I mean, HSU used to have wood finishes, but I don't think they do it anymore.
But you can maybe get them raw. You might not even be able to get them raw, but you can find out like how big of a deal is it going to be to take your crappy finish off of it so I can put something nice on it. And they may be able to tell you that or work with them. I just call them, dude. What could possibly go wrong? Because at 10 grand a pair, there's literally no way you can't come out ahead. If you're considering 10 grand a pair,
HSU has a real wood rose nut.
There you go.
They do. So it looks nice. I mean, it's huge. It's a huge box.
It's a big box of roses.
They do have a real wood. Yeah.
To answer the rest of your question, he says, "What about in-ceiling subs? How complicated would they be to install, position, and calibrate?" They are very difficult to install. Generally speaking, you usually have to have somebody professional do it.
Yeah.
As far as positioning, there is no. Usually, you go, I can put it here, or I can put it here, or there's not a whole lot of options. So, you would basically put one corner in another corner, and put them opposite as best you could.
I mean, being ceiling, you could put one in each corner.
But it depends on which way your joists go and stuff like that.
That's true.
Then it's going to be drywall fixes and everything else if he's got drywall up there. But calibrating is not any harder than any other sub. It's just that you can't move them afterwards.
That bass is going everywhere throughout your open space, whether they're on the floor or whether they're on the ceiling. It's firing itself out there in every direction.
Yeah. He tried an Auralex Great GRAMMA under his JBL sub. It did absolutely nothing noticeable, he says. He could still hear the bass through the TV wall to his bedroom. He had 2 coworkers try the GRAMMA. One heard a difference and the other did not. Why such mixed results? Well, we kind of already answered that question.
Yeah, that was the one I was referring to. That it is addressing one type of sound transmission, and if that is the type of sound transmission that is causing you a problem, there's your fix. Which would explain why the one coworker did hear a difference, because in his case, I would assume what he's getting is structure-borne transmission of the sound, whereas the other guy was not. And in this case, I mean, this house, Scott's house, is wide open. It's wide open. There are air vents in this big open space that share the common wall with his bedroom. It's like he's got flanking pads. He's got
outlet.
Yeah.
There's outlets going straight through as well.
Yeah. Oh. And that JBL sub can play 135 dB at 1 meter, but 135 dB. No amount of damping the floor is going to stop that from just airborne traveling through your 12,000 cubic feet through the door into your bedroom. Like that's going to go. Again, it's one of those things where some people call it snake oil because they tried it and in their situation, it didn't do anything for them. The one thing I'll say, it didn't hurt anything. You heard no difference, so it didn't hurt anything either. But yeah, it's not always going to work because it's only addressing one type of problem. But if that's the problem you have, then it's the fix.
Yeah, and a lot of times in apartment complexes, they're all built with, concrete and cinder blocks and stuff like that. And then, there is a lot that mostly what you're hearing is that physical transfer of sound through the structure. And if you can eliminate that, it makes a big difference. Yeah. All right. He tried an APC J25B battery backup UPS with its entire system plugged into it. TV receiver, Ashley 2100 amplifier.
Yeah, it's the brand Ashley.
Never heard of that. And a sub. His TV would turn off when he turned on his subwoofer. I bet that subwoofer, it's got to probably have a slightly large amp.
Oh, it's like a 3100 watt
Yeah.
amplifier or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah. He tried plugging the subwoofer into the second wall outlet. The first outlet still feeding the APC, and the TV still turned off. Then he plugged everything into a plain old power strip, and everything stayed on. What gives?
How hot did that power strip get?
No doubt.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
Well, one thing. Okay, first of all, don't ever plug a subwoofer into this sort of thing. You should always plug a subwoofer directly into the wall. Subwoofers are all built with fuses these days. They're all made to do this. If you like, the only time I've ever had a problem with my APC is when I plugged a sub into it, and then the sub kept asking for more power, and the APC kept trying to give it to it, and, until basically it blew the fuses on the subs. So this APC told me don't ever plug a sub into our. In fact, I don't even think you should plug amplifiers into them either. But yes, that's.
Yeah, there's another thing going on, which is the J25B in particular, the model that he got. It does limit the current to 12 amps, right? What's coming out of a standard outlet is 15 amps. The APC drops that down to 12 amps because it is filtering everything through a battery. And the battery that's in that unit can't deliver more than 12 amps. So you are actually losing the total wattage that could come out of that wall. It's being limited by that APC. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. The APC J25, it does have two outlets that they say are high current, and those do not go through the battery. So if you are plugging in an amplifier or possibly a subwoofer, that's the outlet you should use, is the high current one, but then you're not having any battery protection. It's just standard surge protection. But even the surge protector in that unit is limited to 12 amps. So why was something turning off? Because, I mean, he's got a big beefy amplifier, a crazy beefy subwoofer amplifier, and then his other gear, and he's playing everything loud enough to potentially fill 12,000 cubic feet. You could absolutely be using more than the total available power from a single outlet, and that is then being limited to 12 amps. Absolutely. That does not mean that the APC J25 is a piece of crap. It means it wasn't built for this specific type of purpose. They do have the specs listed, so you are limited in the total amount of wattage that can come out of that thing. What you really need is another outlet and another protector on that outlet.
Which brings us to his next question. He has the opportunity to have dedicated power circuits run for his theater. He was thinking of putting 3 separate circuits up front for all of his gear and a 4th circuit in the back of his room for a second sub. Any thoughts? Yes.
That is all great.
Do that.
Yeah.
Do that. Do that. And yes, do that. You're going to have ways of protecting each one of these things. But honestly, you probably need, well, I can see where you're coming with 3. So up front, you have 3. You have 1 for your APC, which is going to be connected to your TV and all the rest of your gear. You have 1 for your subwoofer, and maybe a 3rd one for your other power amp.
Yeah, your separate amp. Yeah.
And then in the back, you have 1 for your subwoofer. Yes, that's the way I would do it. I would plug that 1 amp into one, the subwoofer amp into the other one, and everything else into the APC, which is going through the 3rd one. Because frankly, if the power goes out and you lose your subwoofers, the power went out anyways. Who cares?
Yeah.
You're not gonna sit there and keep watching this stuff, and you do not have a battery big enough to power all this stuff.
No,
it doesn't. You have to wait till those ones from what's his name, Elon Musk, come out.
But it keeps your TV on, and it gives you enough time to keep your DVR recording going, or to get to the next save point in your game, or those type of things, which is exactly what you want.
You wouldn't be able to use the fans to cool down your TV before it shuts off. Yeah. He's considering wall mounting his TV and moving all of the components into a server rack to the left or right side. He'd want them to be half-height server racks that look like furniture, not plain server racks. Any recommendations? I'm wondering, does he have the option? Because there's lots of server racks that you can kind of build into a wall, and then like a glass plate on front top, and then you can pull it straight out. So it would have to be like built into the side of like a closet. So it would kind of sink into the closet and then come back out again, sort of thing. That would be pretty cool. I've seen that quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, if he wants actual server racks, like ones that use rack ears, where you are screwing things in, so not just a component stand. It is a little bit tricky because by virtue of needing those mounting holes on the front, it's tough to make that look like a piece of furniture. Like it's going to have those mounting holes. They need to be accessible. They need to be on the front. So how do you mask that to really make it look like a piece of furniture? I know Sanis, they do have that one series that puts server racks inside of pieces of furniture.
I've used that. I had
yeah,
that for a while. I think I reviewed one of those, and they are pretty good.
yeah,
The entire back. What I ended up doing with that is I just ended up taking the back off.
right.
Especially if you put something like an Xbox 360 in there, which just cooks everything,
Mm-hmm.
you end up there's just no amount of fanage that you can put in these things that will circulate the air enough to
Yeah.
he's got these big amp and stuff like that.
Yes, yeah.
How much heat does that thing put off? I would really think hard about this before you do it, dude. Because if you're going to put it into an enclosed space like that, you really run the risk of overheating everything.
Yeah, I can't think of, like, off the top of my head, something better than what Sanis offers as far as something that genuinely has rackier mounts and looks like a piece of furniture. But I don't know that they have one that is like just a half height rack, because they have those ones that are basically TV stands, right?
Right.
Now, there's nothing wrong with having your TV still wall mounted and then having a nice credenza looking stand below it that holds all your gear, looks like a great piece of furniture, and has rack mount ears on the left and right sides of it. So I still think that's quite a viable solution. Sanis does sell racks. I'm through it right now just to see. But yeah, off the top of my head, I think Sanis is your best bet there.
Yeah, they generally are. And it's simply because everybody else is either they're furniture manufacturers that are trying to figure out a way to sell to the audiophiles, or they are audiophile people who really aren't, they're not thinking, they're too worried about how much marble is in it. Let's see here. Are there any streaming services that support MKV files with 7.1 from a home server? What about Atmos and DTS streaming device? I'm sorry, since it said services, I meant streaming devices that
Right.
support MKV files with 7.1 audio.
Yeah, I think he's talking about something like a Roku or an Apple TV. Sorry?
I just need HTPC, right? I mean,
yeah, I mean,
use that.
That's essentially what you need, because you need something that has, particularly when we're talking about Atmos or DTSX, you need something that has bitstream output for the full lossless audio files, which, none of the current, like, smaller, cheap $100 set-top boxes, none of them do that. If you don't want to build your own home theater PC out of a Mac Mini or out of a, Intel NUC or something like that, there are the devices like the Popcorn Hour.
Yeah.
Or shoot, what's that other one? It's slipping my head right now. Starts with a D.
Narrows it down.
I am forgetting off the top of my head. I'm sorry about that. But they basically are home theater PCs, but they're just purpose built to do exactly this. But yeah, as far as like $100 streaming set-top boxes or something like that do this, there are ones that support MKV files, I believe, but none that do lossless audio or would send out the bit streams of Atmos and DTSX. So yeah, you want to look at a Popcorn Hour, and I'm gonna figure out what that other one is while you go on to the next one here.
Lastly, if he were to add lighting sconces, where should he put them? We don't even have a picture of this room. How are we supposed to know this? Where should he put them? Side walls, either side of a screen. He's thinking of getting a projection set up in the future, so they would need to be wide apart on the TV wall if they go there. Yeah, you usually kind of put them sort of regularly spaced because they don't give off a ton of light.
Yeah, and they go upward, right?
They go upwards. So yeah, you really,
Yeah, there were some photos that he had. Somehow those didn't make it into our list here.
I'm looking at this wondering where.
Yeah, he has a very open space with basically sort of a bar at the back, and then, like I say, this sort of office and hallway over to the right. I don't know that sconces. Yeah, I'm not sure that sconces are kind of the way I'd go in a room like that. Like, sconces tend to look really nice when you have a room that's kind of like column and a little bit more enclosed because it casts more of a soft light, gazes upward, that type of thing.
So this is living room, right? I mean, this
yeah,
is
I mean, this is a great room, is really what it is.
Yeah.
And yes, Ray has just reminded me, and I did find it myself. It is the Dune HD that I was talking about, the other box. So there's the Popcorn Hour or the Dune HD. That's kind of the way I'd go for as a player for MKV files and network and Atmos and DTSX.
Okay. I don't care, dude. If you want to go Wisconsin, that's fine. But basically, you just put them in regular intervals because they don't give off a ton of light.
Yeah, I mean, all I would say is if you do end up with them on the front wall where your screen would go, put those on a separate on-off switch so that you can turn them off independently of the other sconces. Because you might, you might have sconces, say, on your side wall that you still keep on, but you don't want them on the front wall when the TV or especially the projection system. I mean, you wouldn't want any of the sconces on with the projection system, but I'd want the front wall ones independent if you put them there.
All right. Ping Pong Theater Ed. So you put a ping pong table in your home theater. That's how you end up with a funny name. Ed has decided to go with the projector upgrade for that $600 that's been burning a hole in his pocket, but he's going to wait and see the newest budget models that are due to be released shortly, CDA hopefully, especially to see what Epson offers. Ed wants to know if Atmos is really worth it. What's the difference between Atmos and discrete channels? It basically sounds the same when he goes out to the theaters. Is it supposed to be better? Will he be missing something if he doesn't upgrade? Is it all just marketing scheme? We've talked about this a number of times, but we'll go through it again very, very quickly. Basically, it's more from the side of the audio mixer. So the audio mixer, instead of saying, okay, let's put this sound in the front left channel mostly, but we will mix a little bit of it into the center and a very small amount of it into the right, and then in the surround channel we'll also get a little bit of it too, but we want most of it to be coming from that left side. Okay, instead of doing that, and they do that with sliders or whatever. Instead of doing that, they say, okay, I want this sound to sound like it's coming I want it to be right here. And it gives it a 3-dimensional coordinate and puts that coordinate in, and that's it. Okay.
Yep.
Now, when you're in a theater, it's no longer playing sounds through discrete channels. It is now saying, okay, this is where the sound's supposed to be coming from. Based on that and where the processor knows that all the speakers are, I can make that sound come from there by using these speakers in this configuration and at these volumes, and therefore so should it sound different? No. I mean, it shouldn't sound any better or worse, theoretically, But what it is it's easier for the mixer to use, and in the end, for you, it's theoretically possible that sound will be more well anchored in that spot because your processor, your home theater processor, will be able, which would be your receiver, would be able to say, my speakers are not placed exactly the same place as they should be. Therefore, I will change I will not play them at the same volume set as I might play in Tom's home theater. That sort of way. That's just talking about the actual object-based mixing versus channel-based mixing.
Yeah. I can say that if you install top middle speakers that are right above your seat, when you play an actual Atmos soundtrack and something comes out of those top speakers directly overhead, you can notice it. That is something that your regular 5.1 or 7.1 can't quite achieve. It does sound different. That's what you would be quote-unquote missing if you don't upgrade to Atmos, is those rare occasions on the few, dozen or so Atmos titles that we have right now, which is expanding. The number of Atmos titles that have been announced, it continues on at a pretty steady pace. I'm very much looking forward to Mad Max, because the early reviews say that it sounds terrific in Atmos, that they really do actually make use of those objects and have sounds going over you and panning around you and like whizzing right by your ear as they come like in a straight line from the front to the back. So, cool stuff. Is it the end of the world if you don't have it? Absolutely not. Like, look at how many people are still just using stereo.
Who's got 2 thumbs and doesn't have Atmos?
Yeah.
This guy. Who's got 2 thumbs, don't care. Also this guy. So
it's a cool thing for those of us who are like, hey, gee whiz, something came from right above me. Cool, I like that. That was worth $1,200. If that's not you, then don't feel bad, because you are under no obligation to like it.
It's not a marketing scheme. You won't necessarily be missing something if you're not going to put speakers over your head anyways. Yeah. So, but it isn't fake. It's something. It's not. Yeah, it's for me. It's more about the future, and it's more about how well things are. How much better things can be as far as the mixing side of it. So it doesn't really. If you want to put speakers over your head, that's fine. That's up to you. That's your deal. Jefferson. I have to be honest, Rob. I got to Scott, and that's where I figured we would be done before.
I see. Well, that didn't even cover everything we didn't get to last week. So
haven't we gotten through last week yet?
I think I don't know. Either Jefferson or Steven is like the first one from.
Oh, so usually you put something in there that tells me when it's All right, Jefferson. All right. Anyways. Says he's sitting exactly 10 feet away from where his projection screen will go, and he is using the BenQ W1070. He took my advice, sat where he likes at the movie theater, and paced it off. The seat he likes is 14 paces from the screen, and the screen is 18 paces across the masking. I think it's supposed to be masking. It says making. The video, 18 paces across, making the viewing angle 65.5 degrees.
Yeah, he's sitting like closer, like he's not sitting 1-to-1 width to distance. He's sitting closer than 1-to-1 width to distance. So, he looks close.
There you go.
That's pretty darn close.
So
Nothing wrong with that, man.
Projector, and he shined it on the wall of equivalent of a 16 by 9, 135-inch diagonal screen viewing with the viewing angle would be 52 degrees. And a 16 by 9, 120-inch diagonal screen with the viewing angle of 45 degrees.
Yeah, he just wrote today saying for his taste, that 120-inch too small. So he wants more than a 45-degree angle. But okay.
So Rob was suggesting a 100-inch screen.
Yeah.
But given that you prefer a larger average, is there some reason to go with a 100-inch screen rather than 120, 135?
No, I was.
What you like?
I was shooting in the blind there because at first he just asked what size screen should I go for with a 10-foot viewing distance. I was like, I would go for a 40 to 42 degree viewing angle. A 41 degree viewing angle is a 100-inch screen, which is a very common screen size. So I was like, 100-inch screen. That's what I would personally get. But he likes to sit closer at the movie theater than I do, and he did what I asked him to do, which was you've got the projector already. You don't have the screen, but you have a wall. So just throw the image up on the wall, make it as big as you like it, and then figure out what the size is.
Boy.
That's right. That is absolutely the way to do this, because nothing says you can't like bigger or smaller. Like someone might look at a 100-inch screen from 10 feet away and go, that's bigger than I want. Exactly. And there's nothing wrong with that either.
Exactly. Yeah. Which is why we tell you to pace it off. Okay, lastly, he was looking around on projectorscreenstore.com. Is there a reason not to buy a screen from them? Do we have any other suggestions on for online screen retailers? Well, we like Elite. Elite screens are very good.
Yeah. Again, he wrote today saying that he actually would like a retractable screen and an electric one, so that he presses the button, his projector turns on, it sends out a 12-volt line signal, and down comes his screen, and then when he turns it off, the screen goes back up. It is cool. It's cool when that happens.
It is very cool. Oh, Projector Central.
I included the calculator mainly because I wanted to make doubly sure that he will actually be able to fill the screen size that he gets, because that is very important. It's fine and dandy to say, I want a 150-inch screen if your room isn't long enough from front to back for the lens of the projector. He already
projected it up on the wall, right?
He already did. Yeah, he got to 135, so we know he can do that.
He knew he should be able to do that. So.
Yeah.
Anyways, so where else should he buy from, Rob?
Amazon, honestly, because first of all, if you're getting a fixed frame screen, so one that's just a fixed frame with the fabric, and you're just hanging it on your wall like a gigantic picture frame, they have their Silver Ticket. That's the brand, Silver Ticket screens, which are like the least expensive fixed frame screen you can get that still performs really well. Chris Heineman over at the Wirecutter, he got I think it was 7 or 8 projection screens, and not only was this one of the least expensive, it actually measured one of the most neutral. So it wasn't just a matter of, oh, this is really high value. It's like, no, it legitimately measured really, really well in that it didn't shift the colors, it didn't hot spot, it didn't do anything to degrade the image, and yet it was one of the least expensive. So if you are going fixed frame, it's really hard to do better, value-wise than those Silver Ticket ones. But if you want an electric roll-down screen, I don't think you can really beat Elite screens as a brand. They are pretty much the least expensive. One thing I really want to point out is if you have a roll down screen, get a tensioned screen, especially as you go to a larger screen size. Because if you get one of the ones that isn't tensioned, you'll get waves. You will guaranteed to get waves in the screen, which is an annoying thing because you can see little folds and shadows and highlights in the screen because it's wavy. So yeah, I get a tension one. Elite sells tension ones, and I was just going by what was at this projector screen store versus the Amazon prices, and the Amazon prices were like $100 cheaper. So given that it's Amazon and I'm willing to trust them and they're shipping quite well, I see no real reason. The Cine Tension 2 with the standard cinema white screen that Elite has be a great choice. And I think for the 135-inch size, I think it was $1150 from Amazon, which you can't beat that for an electric roll-down screen.
No, you can't.
So
I think the one that I reviewed was like $3,500, and I got to throw it out. So there you go.
Yeah.
Steven was wondering, well, we got to wrap this up. Let's do this quickly.
Okay.
It's not a long question. Is wondering if he needs to worry about matching receiver pre-out voltage with amplifier input voltage. He's currently using a Yamaha RX A2040 as a processor connected to Rotel amps. The pre-outs of the Yamaha and the inputs of his current Rotel amps are both 1 volt. However, he knows that the new Rotels accept 1.5 volts. Is this difference anything to be concerned about? It doesn't mean that the 1 volt Yamaha pre-outs can't drive the amp to full power. He would really appreciate it if we could maybe this won't be a short question. If we could give an explanation of the pre-out voltages and the effect on external power amps. The fact of the matter is that most pre-outs, you do not have to worry at all. They will drive amps. They have enough power to get the signal to the amp, which is pretty much all you need. Everything else is kind of gravy. But like this article that Rob found, because you guys know I haven't done any research, the Denon AVR X5200W. The spec sheet lists the preamp output voltage as 1.2 volts, but when Gene measured it, it was 4.5 volts from every single channel. So
yeah,
they're saying it can do 1.2, but it's got tons of headroom, so to speak.
Yeah, what seems to be happening because if you look at just within Yamaha's own specs. Yeah. If you look at their preamp sections of their AV receivers and the way the spec is listed for the preamp output voltage versus their preamp processors, ones that don't have any amps built in, the preamp processors specifically say maximum pre-out voltage. And it'll be like 4.5, 4.6, something like that. The receivers, it just says output voltage. Right. And what they're basically listing is if you don't touch anything, none of the trim levels, that's what's coming out. 1 volt, 1.2 volts, something like that. But they have like 12 or 15 decibels of headroom. You can turn up the trim level, 12 or 15 dB in pretty much any AV receiver. So they're not listing the maximum, they're listing the default. Which is why, like this Denon, which is saying, okay, 1.2 volts at default, but if you turn the trim level up as high as it will go, which is what Gene did when he tested it, it got up to 4.5 volts, which is way more than any amplifier needs to reach full rated power, unless it's one of those crazy, 2 kilowatt amps or something like that might actually require even more. The voltage is the signal. I mean, that is the amplitude of the signal. It is telling the amplifier how loud to get. So when the Rotel is listing 1.5 volts, that is the maximum. That's saying I need 1.5 volts to reach my full rated power. So I completely get the concern. But yeah, you will absolutely get. I have yet to see a modern AV receiver from a reputable brand like Yamaha or Denon or whatever, that is less than 2.5 or 3 volts at max. Like even the cheapest one they have, when they measure the maximum output voltage, it's always 3 volts. Yeah. So, the default might be less than that, absolutely. But this is not a concern. You will definitely be able to drive that 1.5 volt maximum Rotel, no question.
All right. So we've got Nelson, Greg, Justin, not Bieber. Oh, yeah. Sorry about that, Justin. Justin, not Bieber. Nick and Alan and Bruno and Calvin and Jason.
My goodness. Only that, huh?
That's it.
But we did. We put a dent in this. We did.
Are you kidding me? We got down to question. We went through 11. That's pretty good.
Some of those were big time multi-part too.
That's true, and these other questions are much shorter. I mean, on the length of the email, we are 3/4 of the way down the thing. So that's how our list is. All right, for you guys, if you heard your name, we will be talking about you next week. We've also got some extra things that have popped in here. Looks like Byron's got a question. Maybe Carl. Looks like I got that pretty late in the day here, so those might not.
Yeah, and we've been talking back and forth with Jonathan too, so I'm sure we'll address
Jonathan.
some part of that.
Yes, so there'll be some of that. Right. All right. So once again, this is we cannot answer your questions unless you ask them, and just so you know, a lot of these people have already gotten the answers to those questions. Rob, sometimes but mostly Rob will answer them during the week as much as possible, especially if he thinks it's time sensitive. If it's just sort of hey, what do you guys think about the Atmos crap? We'll just wait for the podcast. But if it's like, hey, I'm going to buy this in this weekend, what should I buy?
Right, yeah.
Rob tries to answer you pretty quickly, which is great. Thank you.
Doing what I can.
You can ask it by emailing question or questions at avrant.com, Tom at avrant.com, Rob at avrant.com. You can hit us up on the website, www.avrant.com, facebook.com/avrantpodcast, Twitter at First Reflect for Rob, at avrant_Tom for me, and at Austin Pond for Austin, our producer. Thank you, Austin, who also has
huge thanks to him.
podcast called We Watch Movies or something like that. We love to watch movies. We just watch them. We don't love them.
Just we watch movies. That's all they do.
That's what they do.
It would be funny if that was really literal.
Literally what the podcast was. Yeah. You hear the movie in the background. You hear people
go, maybe eating or drinking something.
Yeah, popcorn. Somebody check out their Facebook.
How about that for riff tracks? Like, instead of any commentary whatsoever, it is literally just listening to someone else watch a movie. That would be awesome.
No. I think I've mentioned this on the podcast before, but my son can't control himself when he watches movies, and I'm going to. My goal is to figure out a way that I can film him watching Inside Out. He's never seen it. All the rest of the family has seen it. I want to film him watching Inside Out because he's. I mean, literally, if I bungee corded him to a chair, he could not sit still during that movie. I guarantee it. Way too emotional for him. It's going to be funny. It was his first day in middle school today too, so I'm pretty excited about that. So, yeah, proud father. You're one step closer to getting the hell out of my house. All right, for AV Rant, I'm Tom Mantry.
And I'm Rob H. Now go out and listen to something.
All right, guys, after party in a few, but it's going to take me like 5 minutes to get this thing to go to this stupid thing so I can turn this thing off.